More than 100 years ago, one rare event of a global scale occurred. An extraordinary northern lights broke out in the sky. People were surprised to find that under the influence of the energy field from the northern lights, they were physically transformed. But not only people were influenced by the strange energy field, flora and fauna of nature also suffered certain changes. In the eternal struggle for dominance on Earth, some low-level animals were tamed by people, and those who have higher intelligence settled on the ground and watched people. To fight these mutated monsters, humanity built cities similar to fortresses. Also, those people were chosen who had outstanding abilities after the mutation, whose detachment was called Awakened. The Awakened are determined by the main element, basic abilities: body, ability to think, and the strength of thought. Having reached a certain level, a person can become half, worn out, participate in the selection in a special school of Awakened, and then continue their studies in order to achieve true awakening. Now the events are transferred to slums in the United City of Huahao in the Slumge in 2514. The main character was called Shanu Tsisho, and he was the legendary awakened deity of scissors and a clan killer. Behind his boasting, the guy completely forgot that he had a client right at that moment and was waiting for his haircut. Also in the hairdresser were other people, as well as several mutated animals mutating. On the wall hung a poster that the hairdresser also provided massage, which was free for women. One of the employees asked her boss whether this service was normal. The main character showed a finger up and said that the massage service was absolutely normal. It seems that the girl was upset when she heard such a simple answer, because she expected something more. Shanu Tsisha instantly realized that his friend was hinting at something, so he began to flirt in response. At that moment, a girl in a maid costume, accompanied by two guards, entered their hairdresser. The maid turned to the main character and reported that her Madame Lin caused a young man to her. Shanu Tsisho apologized to his acquaintance and promised her to talk about personal massage when he ends with all his affairs. Meanwhile, the client was incredibly angry due to the fact that the hairdresser fortontured him half and left, so he threatened to give him -5 stars. A few minutes later, the main character arrived in a chic house and thought that last month the lady called him 5 times. This month it was the 7th time. The guards of the house looked at the guy with contempt, because they believed that he was ordinary garbage from slums. The maid went ahead and immediately informed Miss Lin that she had spent Shanu Texiao. The mistress of the house just left the shower and was unhappy that she had to wait for our hero so long. This girl turned out to be the eldest miss from the elite family of Lin, known as Lin Sinka. She immediately turned and asked the protagonist to go to her room with her, which is why the young man tensed a little. It turned out that Lin Sinki wanted a new haircut, so she only had to call the hairdresser tonight. The girl asked our hero to help her make her hair, so that it was easy for her to do exercises with them, because after 3 days she goes to the Academy of the Advanced Battle. Shanu Tsisha, it seems, was upset when he heard that she was going to this distant place. Lin Sinka felt tension in the guy's voice and confusedly explained that from this day, they will have very few opportunities to see. The girl really hoped that the main character would beg her and say that she could not part with her, but instead, the guy stated that he was also going to enter the Academy of the Advanced Battle. The protagonist, bending down, looked Lin Sinki directly in the eye and explained that only in this way he could become a worthy guy for her. In this case, the girl stated that she will have a gift for Shanu Tsisho if he really enters the academy. Deep at night, the young man returned to his hairdresser and began cleaning, thinking that he blurted all this in front of Lin Sinka because of his desire to seem cool. At the same time, the guy could not stop thinking about what the beauty promised to give him for successful admission to the academy. Our hero did not understand at all what to do at all, because he had only the 5th level of awakening potential. Suddenly, the guy received a message with threats from an unknown number who did not like the fact that Cha Xiao dared to approach his cousin. At that moment, a friend of the main character named Duke, who immediately saw sadness on the young man's face, entered the hairdresser. A friend said that he just has a treasure map that contains information about the medicine of awakening, which can instantly strengthen the potential. Outside, Shanu Tsisho did not show his emotions, but inside he was very happy about this, that with the help of this medicine, the discharge would finally be able to fly into the sky. The main character could not believe that his friend was facing him, and not some kind of illusion, because even in the black market the price of this potion was too high. Duke emphasized that so far there was nothing worried about because, as you know, the potion is outside the 7th district, where there used to be a military base for studying greenery. He immediately changed his mind when he heard that they would need to go to a dangerous zone where I was a detachment of powerful aliens. so he invited his friend to go there. A friend did not want to give up just like that, and explained that this potion was locked in a secret room, which he could not open independently, so we need the help of our hero. Now, Shanu Xixiao understood the reason why Duke came to him, and he proposed to share the potion in half when they could still achieve their goal. In the end, the guy agreed to this adventure, because for the sake of Mrs. Lin, he was not sorry for anything. The guys did not waste time and immediately by car went the forbidden zone outside the 7th district. Shanu Xixiao immediately noted that in this place it was too gloomy, so he was not sure that the base was nearby, but Duke was confident in his actions. The guy shone with a flashlight to the entrance to the military base and said that their goal was already very close. The main character could not wait anymore, so he ran forward to find the potion as quickly as possible, but Duke asked his friend to be careful. Very soon, they reached the right place and Shanu Xixiao, without any problems, was able to open the safe in which the potion was supposed to be. The guy took out a syringe from the safe and some kind of ampule, which were the very potion of awakening. Suddenly, Duke ran up to him, who grabbed the potion with a sharp movement from the hands of the protagonist. It turned out that a friend was not even going to share the potion with Shanu Xixiao. Therefore, without wasting time, he injected the entire ampule only to himself. Our hero was shocked by such a development of events, because he did not expect such a vile act from his close friend. In addition, the young man, falling to his knees, began to feel that for some reason his body began to sharply weaken. The distraught Duke said that the last potion remained on this base for the reason that for its use, it is necessary to sacrifice with all its energy. With all his might, he struck a Shao Xixiao with his head on the floor to test his power awakened. At the same time, Duke was not going to kill his good friend with his own hands and wanted to leave him to eat animals. The main character looked at the traitor and felt that all his ribs were broken, but there was no left in the body. In the eyes of the young man, he began to gradually get dark, but he would not want to die in such a place and under such circumstances. Fragments of pleasant memories with his lover Lin Sinka flashed in his head. Meanwhile, the smell of blood of the protagonist already reached the mutated animals, which instantly smelled of light prey. Suddenly, an unknown bright ray of magic cut out the body of a predator that does not expect such a sudden attack. It turned out that the savior of the protagonist was precisely Madame Lin, whom he just recalled before a possible death. The girl understood that the danger did not pass, so she prepared to deal with other predators. She flew into the air and in one sharp movement masterfully figured out all the rivals in just a few seconds. Lin Sinka was sure that if she came a little later, it would be too late to save the guy. The maid of Yao explained that our hero forgot his instruments at their house, after which she went to the hairdresser and overheard the conversation about the forbidden zone. Lin Sinka burst into tears because she did not expect the guy to make such a risk just for her. She understood that now Shanu Xixiao was too exhausted, so he could survive only by becoming her man and signing a contract on joint awakening. In turn, our hero was afraid of death, because he did not manage to do much in his life. Then the girl suggested starting the process of salvation of the protagonist right now. Shanu Xixiao began to be very nervous because he was wounded, so he could not guarantee that he could conclude a contract right now. Mrs. Lin explained that she was awakened by the main element and inherited this gene, which right now launched the regeneration of cells in the guy's body. After signing the contract, our hero will be one with a girl, so now he had to take full responsibility for himself. Our hero did not expect that everything was so simple, and did not even notice that all the most important had already happened. After a few seconds, Shan Tixiao began to feel that his whole body was overwhelmed with incredible power. Lin Sinka explained that this is the power of awakening, and not the own power of our hero, because now they were in a state of symbiosis. The girl also added that if one of them dies, then the second will follow him, so they should protect each other all the time. Meanwhile, Si Yao asked the guy to come to the estates today, so that she helped him take a bath, change, and learn to use his new physical strength. The protagonist was incredibly delighted only with the thought that such a beautiful maid would take care of him. Lin Sinka did not appreciate the fact that her subordinate and lover behaved so frankly in front of her. The next day, Mrs. Lin decided to immediately bring the protagonist and show him the Academy of the Advanced Battle, which looked just great. Lin Sinka immediately noticed a guy named Zhe Kao, who wanted to get her heart and promised to provide her with the future. Shanu Xixiao instantly appeared behind him and grabbed his hand tightly, because he could not afford to touch Mrs. Lin. Nearby immediately appeared the minions of the coup, who guessed that our hero was a simpleton who got out of slums. The student himself now also guessed about the origin of the protagonist and threw back his hand with disgust. Then the guards intervened in the situation, who ordered the guys to fail if they did not intend to take the exam. Chero realized that it was necessary to stop this quarrel, so finally showed the main character an indecent gesture, saying that he would take everything to remember everything. After some time, all potential students gathered in the hall, where the instructor explained to them that weaknesses were not needed at the combat academy. Zhang Lan said that an imitation of the battle with alien beasts, which is allocated for 5 minutes, is created on the exam. He asked the first batch of candidates, who turned out to be Xiao Yao and Lin Sinka, to choose a controller and follow him. Other awakened nervous, because they did not expect at all that the first task would already be a combat test. In turn, Lin Sinka was confident in her abilities, so she calmly trained for the battle with alien animals. She was enough for only a few seconds to successfully deal with all her opponents. Then, the system said that the doors opened for the girl, and the guys who watched this could not believe that she managed to defeat the beast so quickly. On the screen, there was a notification that the student under number 1, awakened by the main element, was able to cope with the test in half a second. All the guys admired the girl's power, because such potential belongs to the true awakened from the Holy Scriptures. Meanwhile, Shanu Tsisho hoped that his potential would also reach 68, like Ms. Lin. Further, the test was coped with the test, which had the potential of 60 and finished the task in 35 seconds. Everyone was shocked because they did not expect that there would be so many people with a potential of more than 60. Thus, the Lin family was able to justify their fame. So our hero wanted to catch up with their combat power. At this moment, they announced that the registration of the next group began. So our hero prepared to demonstrate his potential. Si Chao with his friends only laughed with the protagonist and recommended that he not disgrace and return to the slush. Shanu Tsishio put on his controller and was not going to answer the provocation of Zadir in any way. Then a worried assistant ran out into the hall, who informed the instructor that in room number 2, a failure occurred, because of which a monster appeared there from the level. Zhang Lan believed that this was impossible, because even the primary awakened with the level was complicated. So he ordered to immediately complete the test. The assistant said that they will not be able to do this because in order to open the room, you need to wait for the assigned 5 minutes. No one could understand how this could happen because all the tests were carefully checked and should be safe. Chero laughed with the fact that Shanu Tsixiao, whom he called slum garbage, would still not be able to enter a combat otomy. Then Lin Sinka, who was just walking nearby and heard it, and looked at the guy with her gaze with a complete rage. Suddenly, Zhang Lan intervened in the situation, who, as it turned out, was also from slums, but was able to become an instructor at the academy. So he decided to teach Cheo. The instructor explained that people here could be comrades in arms, and the guy gloated by Shanu Sisho because of some kind of skirmish, so he had no right to enter the academy. Chekao pretended to apologize for his actions, but already planned to take revenge on the instructor for public insult. Meanwhile, Lin Sinka thought that even she would have to sweat in order to cope with the beast from the level. Also, the girl was worried about the fact that our hero only recently awakened, which is why his strength is unstable. At this moment, from the guard room, some mysterious stranger carefully watched Shanu Kusyo. An ominous smile appeared on this person's face, which did not bode well. Shanu Tsisho had already managed to go to his test and immediately felt that the aura of this beast is much stronger than those with whom he had previously encountered. He tried to reassure himself that he was now in symbiosis with the mistress, so his potential is 68 due to the fact that his body was the DNA of the family of killers. The guy decided to immediately begin the attack of his opponent, using scissors, which he used to use only for haircuts. In one accurate and lightning-fast movement, he pierced the vital points of the alien beast, instantly defeating it. It turned out that the protagonist was also an expert on sterilization of pets in his native slums. Then there was a notification on the screen that number 2 with the potential for waking force of 68 points passed the task in 26 seconds. Zhang Lan did not even think that this year a newcomer would appear with such potential, and Cei Chao was angry due to the fact that his opponent had achieved such success. Our hero left the room and asked if all his strength was recognized now, advising them not to look down at commoners. Inside, the young man was very happy that from now on he was no longer some kind of weakness. In turn, Lin Sinka did not expect that the guy would take possession of her family's abilities so quickly. Suddenly, our hero turned to the screen and saw that his potential for awakening strength was about sharply falling. Chero, who from the very beginning was sure that the technique had a failure, immediately began to rejoice and gloated, mocking the guy. The instructor decided that he himself would evaluate Shanu Kusyo, and ordered everyone to disperse about his business, announcing that the results would be announced a little later. He understood that even in the case of a malfunction in the room, a beast from a class, which a candidate with 60 points lower could not cope with a room, the man decided for himself that he must definitely find out whose guilt it was. Our hero immediately asked Lin Sinka why everything happened, but even the girl herself did not know this. At this moment, Si Yao came, who said that the three of them were determined in Class A, so now they should gather on the training site to meet with the instructor. Shanu Xiao noticed that the training site of the academy was so large that it could fit a few slums, and the maid noticed that for Mr. Tishoy were a unit of measurement. Zhang Lan announced that this time they scored 90 students who were divided into 3 classes, and emphasized that no one had cancelled competition, because at the end only 5 to go to the advance behind the city. The instructor himself was responsible for Class A, and now he distributed to all students a robot who could track students and all basic information, as well as answer basic questions. It turned out that the teacher influenced our hero to get into Class A for confidence, and now he hoped that the guy would not let him down. Other students did not understand why Shanu Tsisho got into this class, because he had a value of only 35 points, which certainly lacked. Zhang Lan immediately ordered the disciples to shut up, recalling that the main duty of the soldier was unconditional submission to orders. Further, the instructor announced that in the first lesson, students will get acquainted with the means of movement that they will use to complete the tasks. In his imagination, the main character thought that they would use some cool sports cars or high-tech ships. But all the dreams of the protagonist crashed when he looked into the sky and saw that flying lead appeared out of nowhere. The doctor explained that this beast is controlled by the costume of their academy and is equipped with advanced by flying devices to date, which will allow more efficient tasks. The instructor also said that the students will need a good balance to fly on pigs, so before that, they will pass a test and fly the entire site. The first student poorly controlled his element of fire and, it seems, accidentally fry his pig. The next was the main character who got some frantic lead, so he had to tame her by force. Shan Xiao could not resist his pig, so now I realized that I needed another approach to this situation. In the end, the young man decided to use his magical forces to subjugate the mind of the animal. As a result, his strength did not go to the pig, but to Si Yao, who now froze in the sky. Shanu Xiao understood that he still did not have combat reflexes, so he lost control and began to fall from his transport. Meanwhile, Lin Sinka sat at the site of the final point and could not understand why the young man still had not reached there. Right at that moment, our hero appeared, who had to beat his pig in order to at least slightly tame it. The animal still did not give up just like that, so at the end, once again, threw Shanu Tsisho from his back. The guy fell right in his hands Lin Sinka, so she immediately excitedly asked if he was injured. Our hero thought that it was quite strange that he initially had an awakening of the body, but just so much he felt that he had an awakening of the power of thought. At this moment, robots flew up to the students and reported how many points they received for this task. So now, Lin Sinka found out that she was given 50 points for the first place. In turn, the main character was disappointed when he heard that he received only 10 points, and Xiao Yao explained that the reason was that he simply came the last. The maid reported that the time of lunch came, so she called Madame Lin and Mr. Shan in the dining room to eat. Other students were also very hungry, so they tried to climb over their portion without queue. The robot said that survival was a difficult matter in the post-apocalyptic world and required a strong sense of awareness of the crisis, so the dining room provides a limited number of dishes. Xianu Xiao asked the girls to provide him with a solution to this problem and was going to fight others in order to get food. After a short period of time, the guy appeared with a lot of food in his hands, which was hard to carry away. Our hero was able to defeat all the students who were in the dining room without any problems and take all the food from them. The girl praised Shanu Kusyo and admitted that she did not even suspect that the one who knows how to fight so masterfully. All the students were very angry when they saw that as a reward for the hero, he received such an incredible beauty, so now they promised to take revenge on him. After lunch, all the students went to the lesson to the teacher of the theoretical basis of animals. The main character tried not to fall asleep in these classes because he considered the theory too boring and wanted to fight the beasts as soon as possible. Already at night, our heroes, incredibly tired after classes, left the academy thinking what would happen tomorrow in the classroom. Shanu Xiao recalled that it seems that the Sinka hostel was in the center of the city, but she tried to say something embarrassedly. The girl explained that now he and the main character are in a symbiotic state, but it seems that his forces are unstable, and therefore it is better to always stay together. Xiao, as if by chance, added that today the mistress went to the manager and gave the school 50 million yen in exchange for Universal in order to live with Chasisao. Our hero was surprised when he heard a terribly huge amount, but also realized what the power of money was. Lin Sinka also said that due to the temporary restructuring of the hostel, she had not yet managed to add the bed, so they will have to sleep together. Deep at night, the guy dreamed of nightmares that all students laugh off him and are indignant because of his success. Suddenly, our hero heard the voice of a stranger who planned to go into the study room of genes on the 3rd floor of the laboratory core. Xianu Zixio could not understand why he hears a male voice and tried to understand whether it was a dream. This man continued to say that his main goal was Lin Sinka, who had a first-class DNA. In the end, the guy guessed that Super Veed and her super services were the abilities of the awakened basic abilities of Akama, and decided to see who broke into the study room. He quickly ran to the right place where he saw a dark silhouette that conceived something. It turned out that it was a friend of the main character named Duke, who recently betrayed him. The guys laughed again, like a real crazy one, and was delighted with such an unexpected meeting with Xianu Zixiao, whom he considered dead. The protagonist decided to reduce all the scores right today and teach his friend to sacrifice him, and now thought something in the Gina study room. Duke was able to easily return from the attack of Xianu Zixio and advised him to take care of himself and not be so impudent. At this moment, the alarm screeched at the academy, and the main villain quickly jumped out of the window, leaving our hero alone. The next second, the guard ran into the office and ordered the guy not to move and explain why he accusedly invaded the Gene's study room. Xianu Zixiao desperately tried to justify himself and told the guard that it was actually Duke who broke into the Gene room. Employees were not going to believe in it because there is no one in the Duke-named academy. So now they also thought that our hero lied. Now the guy realized that he was simply framed and guessed that his former friend, most likely, penetrated the academy under a stranger. At that moment, Lin Sinka with her maid entered the room and immediately excitedly asked why the young man went to the laboratory core. The main character replied that this was a long story, and briefly explained that he found out that someone was trying to copy the genes of the students of the academy and followed to this place, not expecting such a setup. The guards were still not going to believe this, so they demanded that the guy tell the truth and explained why he was here, because otherwise they would have to use force. The girl understood that they had no other way out to get out of here, so she activated the power of the mind. With the help of magic, she ordered the guards to forget everything that was tonight and just go to bed. Men instantly froze in place, completely obeying the effects of the power of reason. In turn, Xianu Zixio was shocked because he did not expect that Sinki had such strong abilities. When the guards left, the girl ran to our hero, asked him not to walk at night next time. The guy explained that, it seemed, he aroused the super leaf, and in the middle of the night he heard that someone was trying to get into the Gene room. Lin Sinka delightfully noted that it was amazing that at the moment 3 forces awakened at the main character at once. The girl with excitement in her voice suggested that, perhaps, Kosyaso with such capabilities would become the legendary Omnipotent awakened. The guy with a slum did not even suspect that such an outstanding genius was hiding inside him. And in the meantime, Sinka Dravillaville that even in her genealogy there was no case that this happened after the conclusion of the contract. Our hero thought and noticed that this happened immediately after he and the girl began to live together. CEO said that our heroes need to return to the hostel because tomorrow they will have a training. Events are transferred for a week in advance. When at the next lesson the teacher said that today there will be a test, and those who fail it will immediately be transferred to the class below. One of the students immediately began to get the protagonist and laughed that someone was unlucky if he decided that having bribed the instructor John Lena, he could forever stay in Class A. Xianu Zixio answered that he did not even need to strain in order to get an excellent assessment of therefore the test. The teacher realized that this was the same guy who entered the class and thanks to his combat abilities, so now he wanted to see what else he was capable of. When Xianu Zixio saw the test, he began to doubt his abilities because he thought that this task was immediately all over the textbook. The guy had no knowledge of the theory, and in the meantime the teacher just approached him and noticed that he took the pen, but did not know at all what to write. He raised his gaze and saw that he had an amazing view of the figure of a woman, which was very distracted from writing the dough. Suddenly, our hero realized that his eyes could see through obstacles, even through a few barriers. Xianu Zixio recalled that this ability is promising vision. and the teacher could not understand the student's strange reaction to her presence. With the help of his abilities, the guy was able to easily see the answers in the next office and was delighted that this skill awakened at such a right time. The teacher informed the students that the time was over and asked everyone to transfer their leaves. She noticed that there was something wrong with the eyes of the protagonist, so she wanted to find an opportunity and teach him a lesson to show the authority of the teacher. Further, events continue in the mansion of the Line of Lin, in the office of its chapter. At that moment, Mrs. Lin found out that the military leader of the Huahao Alliance proposed concluding the marriage union of his son and Shinki. The nephew, who brought this news, believed that such a chance falls out only once in a lifetime, because the proposal came from a high-ranking figure among the military Huahao. The woman was in no hurry to agree to this proposal, because she heard that the son of the military leader was not awakened and was afraid that all this was done for the sake of Sinka's ability. The young man did not see any problem in this, because everyone wants to get what he does not have. But Mrs. Lin still wanted to talk to Sinka herself. The nephew also said that the girl needs to be observed, because she often began to invite Chaxiao from slums, who could not even get to the academy. The woman took note of all these facts and promised to talk with Lin Sinka after a visit to the academy. The girl's cousin still wanted to find a way to persuade Aunt to the candidacy of the son of a military leader to get the inheritance of the family. As for the Chance Xiao, the young man was about to find a way to get rid of the slush. Meanwhile, the academy was posted the results of the first week by which the main character was in the first place after writing the test. Lin Sinka believed that the test was very complicated, so she did not expect the guy to receive the highest score. Chao Chao could not believe that his rival was able to achieve such success, because the guy himself received 61 points and almost flew out of the academy. After the announcement of the results, the students went to an open lesson in pharmacology, where they met a teacher named Bai Mian. The girls immediately fell in love with a pretty teacher, and also began to discuss that he is a brilliant expert of potions, known as the Light of Mankind. Meanwhile, Bai Mian began to tell that every time the Awakened departed at Misha, they take potions with them, in case of unforeseen circumstances. But he believed that it is useless to talk a lot, because true knowledge comes with practice, so he gave everyone the task of reviving the toad. The main character was sure that this would not be difficult, and was going to revive the toad in the moment of the eye. In the end, the potion simply exploded in the hands of the young man, so the robot emphasized that the composition of the drug should be extremely accurate. Chao instantly noticed this and laughed from his main opponent. And in the meantime, the Chance Xixiao became great, because the preparation of the potion turned out to be so complicated. Our hero perfectly understood that the formula of the potion is too complicated, and it is very easy to make a mistake during cooking. The young man decided to choose a different path, and decided to try out the secret recipe that was transmitted in his family from generation to generation. After 10 minutes, he managed to complete the manufacture of an active restorative tool, but Ku Chao still continued to mock the guy. Shanu Tsisho grabbed his ward toad and poured her potion right into his mouth to resurrect. As a result, our hero succeeded with the help of this ancient secret medical Huahao, which has the effect of blood and energy restoration and eliminates the deficiency of beneficial substances. The toad immediately began to actively jump throughout the cabinet, and the teacher noticed that although students did not follow the recipe, but I deserve praise, Chero thought that there was nothing like that, so I decided to drink a potion to demonstrate that it was no worse. Baiman tried to stop the student because people should not take unverified medicines, but it was already too late. The students immediately with disgust asked who ruined the air, not suspecting that it was precisely CEO. The guy quickly ran out of the class, and the teacher sighed heavily and again recalled that after potions there can be strong side effects. Meanwhile, Shanutsisho rejoiced at his successes. We plan to learn more about Hu Hao's medical skills, which were very extensive and deep. Lin Shinki incredibly admired her lover, because she did not expect that he had talent even in a potion jam. Suddenly on the radio they announced an emergency notification that all students should urgently gather in the assembly hall in 5 minutes. The girl quickly grabbed the protagonist by the hand and pulled him to a safe place, because the signal in the alarm reached the level of S. Bai Mian also felt something was wrong and looked at all his students with fear. In the assembly hall of the students of the academy, Mrs. Lin, who had just come on a visit, was already waiting for the students. Lin Sinka did not expect to see her mother here, because she was busy in the army every day, and our hero did not expect that Mrs. Lin was a military leader. Meanwhile, the military leader said that she had just received an urgent order from the military, who reported that the device for scaring animals on the outskirts of the city was out of the city and needed immediate repairs. Therefore, due to fierce battles in the north, the military decided to select candidates from the Academy class to assist the Legion in the repair of the device. Chio began to panic, because he himself has a broken device. If he collides with a monstrous tide, then this will end deplorable. The military leader began to motivate students and stated that the soldiers themselves should respond to the call of help if they had the courage. She immediately noticed that this year the quality of beginners was not very good and, indeed, it was too early for them to undergo an internship. The main character volunteered and stated that Shanu Xixiao from the slum was ready to sign up for volunteers to show off before the future mother-in-law. Mrs. Lin appreciated the fact that the protagonist decided to volunteer the first of all students of the academy. Chero laughed with the guy was so selfless and voluntarily wanted to sacrifice his head. Lin Sinka and Sai Yao could not stay away and agreed to go on the battlefield with our hero. Only now the military leader remembered that Shanu Tsisho was the guy who became close to her daughter and got into Class A. When the students left the assembly hall, they began to discuss the case when one of these devices failed, and many mutated creatures poured out of all the cracks, which was due to a lot of awakened. At the same time, Mrs. Lin again met with her nephew, who also promised to participate in this mission to look after Sinka. In addition, the guy wanted to take advantage of the moment, and at the same time get rid of the cutting of slums. Meanwhile, the main character decided to give a Shinki decoration in the memory of their first joint force. Shan Xixiao said that he exchanged this bracelet for points at the academy, although he used to buy some weapons or equipment. But this needs more than 10,000 points. Very soon, all volunteers gathered at the city gate, and one of the soldiers presented Zhou Qing, who was an assistant to Professor Bai Miana and was responsible for the medical care of the team. Our hero noticed that this guy was some kind of strange because he had never seen him at the academy. Everyone saddled their flying pigs, so the commander announced that the mission was beginning and their goal is to repair the device to repel animals hundreds of kilometers from the city. The protagonist, who now had to go together with Sinka because of the poor skills of pig control, had never gone out of the gate and now enjoyed the look. The team leader said that after arriving at the place, everyone will have to fix 10 devices. Soon it was to be dark, so everyone needs to accelerate and try to finish the repair before sunset. Shanu Shishio listened to the commander and quickly began repairing using all the stingy tools, although at the same time he had some kind of bad foreboding. After some time, the guy coped with his task and now believed that the mission was not too dangerous. Suddenly, the young man saw that their assistant Zhou Qin was doing something rather strange. It turned out that all this time, under the hood, Duke was hiding, which now placed a mini-bomb in the main device for scaring the animals. The villain laughed with the fact that our hero was such a stiff, and only now he realized that he had been hiding all this time under the mask of Assistant Professor Bai Miana. Shanu Xixiao rushed forward to save a device for scaring the animals, which was the most effective protection against them. Unfortunately, the main character could not neutralize the explosives in time, so the explosion on each part of this device thundered. The guy immediately tried to deal with Duke, but he was not going to fight, because he was sure that an avalanche of animals poured here would deal with his opponent. The main character only had to look at how his enemy disappears using a teleportation bracelet. Then the team was warned that a wave of beasts of level D, a number of about 50 individuals, was approaching. The commander instantly asked everyone to listen to the order and go into a state of increased readiness and prepare. All the soldiers obeyed the order and instantly began to shoot all their enemies. Lin Sinka worked with our hero and said that she would protect him from the back. Shan Xixiao asked the girl not to worry, and only his faithful movement figured out all her opponents. The battle with monsters lasted a considerable amount of time, so the team suffered some losses. Lin Sinka after that met her brother and asked why he was here, and he explained that his mother was worried about her, so she asked to look at. Suddenly, the soldiers saw that a new horde of mutating animals was descending from the sky. Si Yao immediately tried to save her mistress because other team members were already injured from this attack. Shanu Xixiao perfectly understood that the real battle began, so the slightest mistake could cost life. Suddenly, the protagonist felt that for his lover was in danger from the air. He immediately shouted that Sinka was more careful because she was attacked from above, to which the girl immediately reacted. She fell to the ground and saw that a protective barrier appeared in front of her, who created a gift from Shanu Kusho. Although in a hurry, she forgot to take self-defense means. Our hero felt that for some reason the animal tides of the wave were rolling on him, and could not understand what was happening. How did he see that Duke was using some device to direct the animals to the side he needed? The soldiers understood that with the speed with which the animals are now attacking, they would not be able to fix the device and run away, so they would have to use a special potion that attracts the attractive mutants. The leadership reported that they needed a person who would take this bottle to take the animals to the side and win the time to repair the device. The students froze in the place when they heard that someone would need to literally risk their lives in order to save the whole team. Only Shanu Tsisho agreed to this mission because with his improved vision and hearing, as well as physical improvements, it will not be difficult to break away from animals. The guys touched the fact that Xiao, over whom they all mocked and laughed, decided to save them. Lin Sinka said that the new wave consists entirely of the door of level C, with a potential value of at least 70, so she offered to act together. But the commander stopped her. Shanu Tsisho understood that if he did not go alone, then everyone would die, so he simply asked to believe in him. The guy quickly ran away from his team and opened a bottle of potion to divert all opponents. Everyone admired such a brave act of the protagonist, and Lin Sinka hoped that he would definitely return to her. At the same time, the girl's cousin was happy that his goal itself went to certain death. The young man did not expect at all that the animals would pursue him for such a long time, so he decided that it was not an option to run simply, because sooner or later the forces would end. At that moment, our hero unexpectedly remembered the old children's photo in which he was with Lin Sinka. On that day, the guy beat the local little boy who asked him to make a hairstyle like a Japanese boy, but everything turned out completely wrong. Then Lin Sinka, who found out that the boy was able to do hairstyles, came to the aid of Shanu Tsisho, so she entrusted him with his hair. The main character immediately remembered that if he died, then Lin Sinka would also overtake the same fate. The guy looked closely and noticed that the weaknesses of the animals were highlighted by red areas. He quickly began attacks and decided to try the trick that he learned in the comic. For a short period of time, Shanu Tsisho was able to easily deal with all the beasts, and now believed that the level C was not so strong. Suddenly, a Duke appeared in front of our hero, who did not expect that the young man could hold out such a time. The main character was determined, so he said that it was time to take accounts with his enemy. Duke almost died of laughter when he heard that our hero was going to kill him after he spent all his strength during the battle with the beasts. He said that he managed to use the girl to increase his level of awakening, and without wasting time, attacked our hero with the help of an awakened fireball. Shanu Tsisho used the reflection by the power of the mind and said that he always considered Duke a friend, but he treated him as a sacrificial instrument, so there was no other way left but to kill him. The enemy did not expect that the main character could arouse the power of reason because it was a very rare occurrence. The main character decided not to stop and use the reinforcement of the body to deliver the final blow to the villain. He was sure that there was nothing in the world that cannot be solved with one blow, and if there is, it could be two, and planned to pay Duke for all his actions. The villain still could not believe that the young man could really arouse the double system, and was sure that Lin Sinka definitely had some secrets. But it turned out that Duke had a new potion, although he did not want to use it, because the drug had too strong side effects. The guy immediately felt the force filled his comma, and said that now the last day of the protagonist had come for sure. Our hero understood that the fortifying potion caused a quick surge of energy in his opponent's body, but side effects were not at all noticeable. Duke accelerated for the last blow to his ex-friend and invited him to at least try to win. Shanu Tsisho was not going to give up just like that, so he prepared for the last jerk. In the end, the opponent was still able to slip near our hero and successfully attack him. The guy simply fell off from such a blow, and the villain was happy that his opponent was too weak. Suddenly, Duke grabbed his heart because he sharply began to feel that something was wrong with him. As it turned out, Shanu Tsisho used his ability to see weaknesses, did not notice that the protection near Duke's heart fell to 0. Then he used the power of reason to penetrate the enemy's body and reach the heart with the help of 5 needles for acupuncture and simply destroyed the vital organ. Now Duke realized that the main character was able to arouse as many as 3 systems, and admitted that he was careless during the battle. Suddenly wounded, barely catching his breath, began to call Mr. Baimiana, begging him to come and help. The protagonist immediately thought that the professor is an agent undercover at the academy, but now he was more concerned with the fact that he needed to quickly return back, where Zinky was waiting for him. Shanu Tsisho felt that his strength gradually ended, and before the loss of consciousness, he saw a zombie in front of him. Some time has passed, and now events are developing on the territory of the zombie, which was in the throne cemetery. The guy felt some kind of soft touch on himself and thought that after his death he got into a real paradise. He thought that it was Lin Sinka, who wanted to put his lover in an embrace and heal him. The main character could not resist, his feelings prevailed, and he quickly approached his beauty. As it turned out, next to Shanu Tsisho, there was a completely unfamiliar girl who did not understand about such a strange reaction of the guy. When the young man reservedly came into consciousness, he was scared, because he realized that he was not at all next to his lover. Our hero thought that he had a dead man, because the stranger had frosty white skin and dark red pupils, and the girl herself noticed that the guy looked like a real cat. A strange girl pulled Shanu Kusio and explained that her blood healed him, so now the guy belongs only to her. The guy noticed that the girl speaks freely and quickly thinks, so he concluded that she was a zombie with high intelligence. He turned his head and saw that besides this, a stranger could control many low levels of zombies and most likely is their queen. The protagonist recalled the lessons in the study of mutating animals, which said that in addition to ordinary creatures of a low level, more reasonable creatures known as kings of animals live outside the city. The teacher just woke the young man at the moment when she said that these creatures have their own territories. So the military divided the territories occupied into 7 dangerous zones. Now, Shanu Tsisho guessed that for the first time he left the city, he immediately wandered into a dangerous forbidden zone and met one of the 7 kings. The guy decided to apply the secret 101 karate and simply run away if he cannot defeat his opponent. Suddenly, the protagonist ended with strength, and the whole body was numb, because of which he simply fell to the ground. This behavior of the young man angered the queen of the zombie, because she immediately guessed that he tried to escape. Then, our hero tried to lie that he was simply hungry and wanted to catch a wild rabbit. I will explain that people should eat every day or they would just die. In the end, he guessed that he had come to an end, because the queen was no longer stopped, because she was in him because of her rage. Using her abilities, the girl deftly captured the poor rabbit and then pulled the bewildered Chan Tsisho with force. The queen gracefully took our hero by the chin and offered to eat with this very rabbit. And the guy thought that he needed to find a way to avoid a zombie from the territory as soon as possible. The main character understood that at first he needed to restore strength, so he decided to cook meat with the help of woods that lay nearby. The girl watched how Shanu Tsisho, with the help of a stick, began to breed a fire, but still could not understand what he was doing. The guy explained that people eat cooked food and make fire with this method to fry raw meat and get an amazing taste. The queen with her citizens immediately smelled a pleasant aroma from the dish, which she had not felt for a long time. The main character said that his cooking skills were the best in the slums, and suggested that the girl try barbecue. Even the queen of the zombie herself could not resist this aroma of meat and wanted to try an incredibly appetizing dish. Zombies could not resist the temptation. Their ugly faces were distorted in greed when they decided to eat and fry the caught person. The queen turned to her subjects in the zombie language and stated that the one who tries to steal the forbidden meat would certainly die. The main character looked with horror at the fact that the girl ruthlessly shook her dead to pieces with magic. After a few seconds, the zombies looked at their body in bewilderment and noticed that everything was in order. The subjects bowed to their queen and thanked her for taking pity and did not kill them. The protagonist saw that zombie had an endless power of regeneration, and now it would not have been opposed to getting the same ability. Meanwhile, the queen of the zombie could no longer hold on and began tasting a fried rabbit. The death girl with unexpected enthusiasm felt the taste of human food, and her dead eyes shone with a rare glimpse of satisfaction. After dinner, the queen of the zombie lay down to rest, and our hero was now sitting on a chain so as not to escape from here. The guy again woke up by the super leaf, so he could hear what the zombies were talking about, who discussed the fact that the queen plans to leave a person to restore her original body. The dead believed that the queen's idea was too stupid, because zombies are the top of evolution, much superior to people, and people are worthy only to be their food. They planned to overthrow the queen, although they were afraid that she was too strong. But one of the dead asked not to forget that there was a special day, and the only opportunity to attack their leader tomorrow. Shanu Tsisho was surprised that he understands the language of the zombie, and was afraid that these small bipods really decided to rebel. But the reason for his new knowledge was that he drank the blood of the queen herself. Our hero flew to Hay and thought that he did not even know that there was also intermediary among the zombies. So now he wanted to escape as soon as possible so as not to participate in other people's showdowns. Despite his not particularly convenient place for sleeping, the guy continued to sleep sweetly. He woke up and saw that the queen, who stated that the physical activity of the human guy forces her to feel like a man, was already nearby. Shanu Tsisho was embarrassed and thought that she was hinting at something when it is said that her human feelings wake up. A few seconds later, our hero returned to reality and realized that it was nonsense, because the girl walked him like her dog. He also felt that it seems that his body had already recovered, but at least 10 days should have gone to it. Zombie subjects pretended to obey their queen, but the leader of the rebels only thought that today he would become the king of the zombie. The dead decided that the right moment had come, and without delay began to act, strictly adhering to a pre-thought-out plan. In the end, the queen led the protagonist to the bloody barrier, but he did not understand what she was going to do together, which were not in the territory of the zombie. After observing this strange process, the young man realized that the leader of the dead came here to conduct some kind of ritual. A few seconds later, before Shanu Tsisho, the incredibly beautiful human form of the queen of zombies, the incredibly beautiful human form. At that moment, the girl noticed that the main character stared at her, so she pulled him over the leash. Suddenly, the queen was shrouded in thick and dense disaster plants, which instantly deprived her of the opportunity to move. The leader of the rebels of zombie laughed because he had been waiting for this day for a very long time to become a king. Our hero thought that things were bad because yesterday the dead said that today was the very special day because the queen was able to become a man, so now it was not known whether she could fight. The guy also felt that the animals used by the dead were much stronger than those he faced, so he suggested that they were a level in or even A. The zombie laughed out that the queen was surprised due to the fact that her submitted recognized her secret and noticed that every year on August 24th she went outward. From the precaution, he sent one of his zombies priests to secretly follow the queen and report the whole situation. It is not surprising that the little zombie was killed by the queen as cannon fodder, but the leader of the rebels still felt the pheromones that he sent. That is why the zombie in advance planted a disaster plant in the place where the queen always retreats to destroy the border, and controlled powerful bloody animals with the help of blood, waiting for this turning point. The dead man released his bloody animals to attack the target, and stated that he was going to eat all people because zombies were the masters of this world. The queen tore the plant and stated that she could well fight, wishing to death for those who would rebel against her. The zombie ordered his minions not to listen to her and assured them that their rivals were in a state of absolute weakness. In fact, the queen was still strong to defeat the bloody beast of the level, and with one exact movement, the protagonist thought about whether he should now take the side of the queen, hoping that in the event of his winning, she would just let him go if she was in a good mood. In the end, he decided to stand up for the queen and stated that the dead would need to cross his corpse if they did not want to harm her. A light smile appeared on the girl's face when she saw such devotion from Shanu Tsisho. The queen pushed back our hero and stopped him, because she could independently deal with her affairs. She was able to deal with bloody animals in a few seconds, so panic began among the zombies, because they understood that it would not be so easy to win. The leader was prepared in the event of such a development of events, therefore he ordered his minions to begin to implement his plan B. He decided to use the initial evolution and cause a surge in energy to deal with the queen and the main character right here and now. Shanu Tsisho noted that this zombie was so strange that he could devour her likes to develop. And in the meantime, the girl used magic to create a shield. It turned out that the queen created protection only to save the protagonist and was about to fight alone. Zombie called it a lower human being because the girl used half of her forces to defend a guy who did not mean anything. The queen with a grin looked at the attempts of ordinary garbage to get closer to her, finding their desire to eat her frankly funny. She was able to dodge the first attack, but then noticed that the enemy was still able to get closer to her. Our hero perfectly understood that earlier the queen killed bloody animals, and now he gave him a shield that at first that she could still hold out for long. He tried to shout to the girl to release him, and at that moment he heard that she muttered some phrase in English. It turned out that the queen said that he loved someone, receiving a considerable number of injuries from her enemy. In her memoirs, the moment immediately surfaced, as a guy told her this phrase when she was still very small. The girl could not withstand this influx of emotions, so tears rolled from her eyes. The zombies laughed from the fact that their queen showed her true essence, because they believed that in the kingdom of zombies, the king could become only the strongest. Further, the rebels used the poisonous attack that it simply paralyzed the queen's central nervous system, which is why the shield around the Shanu Tsisho disappeared. The leader of the rebels made a jerk towards his goal in order to finally finish this battle and become a king. Due to the fact that the girl was completely paralyzed, she could simply look at how she flew in front of her for the last seconds of her life. The next second, the main character appeared in front of her, who took the whole blow to himself, after which a through hole appeared in his body. Shanut Sisha exhaustedly collapsed into the queen's arms, quietly saying that his end was already close and he had very little time left. The zombie invited the guy not to rush like that because he planned that now they, together with the queen, are ruled by the afterlife. Suddenly, our hero began to quickly restore the body, so he was going to continue to fight for the sake of his queen. Now his body was burning with the power that he could receive after the queen gave him part of his blood. Shanut Sisho, that now his potential exceeded 70, which meant that he officially woke up due to the effects of the blood of the zombies. He gathered all his strength, deciding not to waste time, and quickly joined the battle in order to end the opponents as soon as possible. Having finished the enemies, our hero quickly grabbed the queen in his arms and decided that now was a great time to escape from here. This time, the guy wanted to try to use the power of thought to his feet, and use the effect of thought to increase the speed of movement to the maximum. Shanut Xixiao said goodbye to all the zombies, which were still bewilderment that he was able to confront an ordinary person. The dead were not going to give up just like that because they planned to kill the queen today. And our hero suddenly noticed that the girl had disappeared from his hands. While Shanut Sisho is distracting the zombie, the queen managed to jump and bite her finger for something. It turned out that with the help of blood, the girl decided to use magic to escape from the chase. She asked the protagonist to go inside, but he did not understand at all what was happening now. Zombies sharply felt that the smell of their goals had disappeared, although the queen and the guy fled in this direction. Meanwhile, the main character and queen flew in space to teleport to another place. The girl quickly extended her hand, trying to catch a chance Qixiao and help him to land safely. After some time, they still could get to the right place, and the queen explained that she moved them to the Cave of Evolution. This place was dedicated to the king of the zombie of all times, and it was necessary to collect the core of evolution in order to comprehend the secret and began the ritual. Our hero guessed that in order to escape, the queen used her blood zombies to open the evolution cave, and suggested that there was something that would give her a higher secondary evolution. The girl began to notice that her miasms had almost disappeared, so she asked Shanutisha to accelerate and move on. The guy realized that an army of zombies was outside the cave, and unknown creatures could hide inside, so the only chance of survival was to help the queen in its evolution. After some time, the girl led the protagonist to a huge altar. She explained that this was a seal and entrance in order to get the core of evolution, but all the previous kings of the zombies failed to get it. Our heroes did not feel at all that while they were considering the altar, the spiritual beast defender imperceptibly approached them. The monster instantly attacked them, but the queen was able to jump in time and pull the protagonist to the side. With the help of his magical vision, the young man saw that in his stomach, this beast was the very core of evolution. The queen was not at all difficult to tear the beast defender in half in order to get to the core she needed. This magic stone immediately fell to the ground, so the girl carefully reached for him. There was a crack and the queen, turning around, saw that the monster was able to recover because, most likely, he had the same endless restoring force. She did not lose time, and, with the help of endless reorganization, once again pierced her enemy. Meanwhile, the guy realized that the body of this beast was huge, but the body was absolutely the same as that of an ordinary cat. He asked the queen to rest because she did not need to do such things at all, and promised to settle everything right now. Shanut Xixiao explained that you should not think one-sidedly, because if they cannot cope with cruel methods, then you can use softness. He jumped high to quickly get to the soft wool of the beast defender. Our hero had a gold medal in massage of pets of rich people, so he was able to easily distract the monster with stroking the wool. After graduation, he decided to demand from the animal fee for this service in the form of a core of evolution. Shanut Sisho laughed rather after his success and called his skill massage, which could save life. Now they could easily find out what was the secret of the next stage of evolution after the core of evolution was placed in the middle of the press. When the stone was in its place, the outlines of ancient ruins began to gradually manifest itself in the air, as if awakening from a long sleep. The protagonist recognized these symbols and thought that it was Tai Chi Bua, but the queen did not hear about such a name. He explained that in Chinese Taoism, it is believed that Tai Chi gives birth to yin and yang, and in turn, these two begins to give birth to everything. As a result, they were still able to activate the ritual of the evolution of the stone body, and a sign, and not yin-yang, appeared on the ceiling. The main character understood that at such a pace the second stage of the evolution of the queen will absorb and his himself. At that moment, the queen pulled a young man to her and stated that he should help her to pass the second stage. They were enveloped in the sphere of energy, and Shisho panicked because he thought that right now his end would come. A few moments later, the queen with ease broke the sphere, making a crack that marked the completion of her evolution. Now the queen has transformed. Her appearance has changed, reflecting the power that she gained along with new forces. At the same time, Shisho was helplessly in the ground after that, as the girl used it to improve. After a moment, our heroes noticed that he was a cave of evolution began to crumble. The queen asked the guy to hold onto her leg so that she could pull out their two from this place. Meanwhile, on the surface, on the territory of the zombie, the new leader of the dead planned to lead all subjects to destroy and oppress all living things. All zombies devotedly worshipped their new king Symbiosis and were ready to listen to all orders. Suddenly, the new king heard that someone with a mockery called him a toad, who was trying to swallow what could not. The zombie instantly recognized their queen and her man, who nevertheless could survive after the chase. Also, subordinates felt that she had a terrifying aura that was stronger than ever, so they concluded that their queen managed to evolve them. The leader of the zombie uprising immediately fell to his knees and began to apologize to his leader. "I beg you to spare their lives." The rest of the zombies without hesitation followed his example and bowed to their true queen, recognizing her power. She was too merciless, so she decided in a second to destroy all the dead who dared to go against her. The Verkhovna queen said that those who challenge her would burn in hell, and said that from today the protagonist will become the new consul of the apocalypse. It turned out that he even managed to save Somsi twin, who were previously captured by the rebels. All zombies were even afraid to raise their heads, and now put their queen and the new consul of the apocalypse. The main character only now realized that he had received his position and was now an assistant to the queen of the dead. Time passed and the guy was absent at the academy for a week. So he already planned to return because he did not want to be an official in the country of zombies at all. He planned to run away right here and now, and not wait for a convenient moment to return to the city as quickly as possible. The queen was too attentive, so she simply did not let her consul run to escape. The young man decided to put pressure on Pity and said that he was born in the slums. His mother 102 also has 3 younger brothers who need to be fed. He also seriously said nonsense that the military authorities were conducting a zombie study, so he may be able to find a secret formula to turn the queen back into a person. In the end, the girl agreed that her consul return to the native world of people. The main character was delighted with this decision, so he called her the most beautiful and powerful queen in the world. In the end, the queen warned the young man that his body was a trace of the zombie poison. Therefore, if he did not accept the antidote, then in a year he would simply die. Shisho did not expect to hear such a warning, because she did not guess that she managed to poison him. In the end, our hero guessed that in the queen's body itself there was poison, and he was transmitted during the second stage of her evolution. She also added that the label on the hand of the protagonist gives him the opportunity to call her S-Class Double at any time, which will immediately come to the rescue. Shisho sadly looked at his mark and could not believe that his life would end in just a year, because in any case, he could not fulfill this promise. Our hero ran away from the territory of the zombie in tears, and promised himself after returning to try to find out what was happening in the military elite. Meanwhile, it was raining on the territory of people. Everyone gathered in the church for condolences to their comrade Channel Xixiao. The funeral announced that a student of Class A of the 37th school camp of the school died during the 1827th Suburban mission. The director in tears said that it was Xixiao who rushed at the monsters with mutagen at a critical moment, fought and died with honor to the very end, giving a great danger from the city. For outstanding merits in this mission, the military authorities posthumously assigned the guy the title of Second Lieutenant for Special Merits. At the same time, Lin Sinka felt that the protagonist had stable life indicators and the potential for his awakening exceeded 70 levels. At this moment, something shocking happened, to which all the participants buried their attention immediately. The young man, whom they had previously considered the dead, just entered the hall, immediately ran to our hero and looked several times at the photo of the deceased and at the guy himself, who appeared at such an unexpected moment. Shisho never thought that during his lifetime he would be able to attend his own funeral, and decided to take a picture as a keepsake. Lin Sinka immediately jumped up from her place when she saw that her lover was intact and unharmed. The girl all this time was very worried about the protagonist and now congratulated him on the return. The young man was also glad of this meeting, so he wanted to imprison the Shinki's arms as soon as possible, on which he was very missing. Suddenly, the main character felt the presence of an unknown who blocked his way to his lover. These were three huge guards who reported that the military council had just issued the highest warrant for the arrest of Shanu Kuxiao. The young man could not believe that in such an inappropriate way, people met their hero, and Xiao Yao tried to calm her mistress and assured that in the military council they only wanted to make some certificates. Meanwhile, the director was very worried about such a turn of events and announced that the funeral is cancelled, so all classes should return to their studies. Events continue in the interrogation room, where our hero tried to prove that Bai Mian was a secret agent at the academy, about his assistant lead for the destruction of the Frighter device. The military admitted that these people were probably involved in the fake of entrance exams at the academy and theft of genetic data, and asked if the guy after the battle arrived in the possession of the zombie and therefore disappeared. The protagonist confirmed this fact and decided right now and now demonstrate how he fought off the attackers of the zombies. The military still had a lot of doubts because, according to the data, the young man was only a high potential awakened. Then, Shanu Tsisho thought about what to tell the military about a meeting with the Queen of Zombies, because this should not cause even more problems. In the end, the guy changed his mind abruptly and said that he seemed to see anything and escaped after the zombies were destroyed, and then got lost and was able to return. The military was shocked when he heard that our hero was a triple awakened, because in the history of human awakening, there are only a few people who could achieve double awakening. He immediately ordered his subordinates to accompany the protagonist for inspection, not allowing further delay. After some time, the director called and reported that Shanu Tsisho was a triple awakened with a potential of 70 points, a genius among geniuses. Then all the students of the academy were again gathered in the assembly hall, because the commander was going to personally praise this guy. In addition, all senior personalities of the military command arrived at the academy. Now the photo of our hero was surrounded by the inscription and that he was in honor of his homeland, an example for all students with a real warrior. Mrs. Lin said that in the 1827th mission outside the city, the heroism of Shanu Tsisho was obvious to everyone, because he not only helped to fix the device, but also turned out to be a rare person with triple awakening. Now the commander asked all those present in the hall to attach them to the hero. Shanu Tsisho was confident in his abilities, charisma, and beauty, so he was not at all surprised that he was so praised. The students who used to hate our hero now could not stop admiring them, and Cheo Chao could not calm down because his main rival received so much attention and glory. The chief of staff and the colonel also believed that they had an amazing guy in front of them, because the triple awakening was previously considered impossible. Mrs. Lin in gratitude awarded to Shanu Kuxiao, because if not for his courage, they would have lost even more soldiers. The young man was very happy that the mother-in-law recognized him because it was another step towards marriage to Lin Sinka. The girl herself was also not going to stand aside, so she decided to congratulate the protagonist and give him a bouquet of flowers. The guy gently kissed his beloved and apologized for making her worry. Now the commander was not against giving his daughter away for such a young and responsible guy, so I decided to postpone the wedding with Zhun Xiao. At the same time, the cousin was not at all glad that his plans were destroyed, and decided now to inform the master about this turn of events. When the students left the hall, the robots reported that the first stage of training was completed. So now everyone will have a 3-day vacation. Our hero immediately decided to ask where Sinka went on the weekend and invited her to train together in the hostel for 3 days and 3 nights. The girl said that she had business at home and added that she could take more combat rescue equipment from the house. Xiao, slightly embarrassed, offered her help, noting that she could replace Miss Lin for practice. In the end, the protagonist decided to return to slums, where he was met with all the honors who had already learned the news. The woman already wanted to give her sisters for the guy, but he asked to talk about this later because for starters he needed to return to the store. Aunt Zhang admired that the young man was rather scrupulous in the choice and agreed to talk later. On the way home, the main character thought that he said something wrong and hoped that the Zhang family would not be offended by him. After the arrival, the young man said that the next 3 days he would trim the discount, and one of the girls just asked her to make a massage. After such glory, a considerable number of clients granted such glory to Shang Xiao, so he asked them to stand in line and go one at a time. The business flourished because after training at the academy, the guy's technique became even more stunning. At this pace, the protagonist worked on the whole day and bowing his hands, but in any case he liked all this fuss. After the closing of the hairdresser, the young man saw that someone went to him, and culturally said that they would open tomorrow morning. It turned out that this was his teacher, who wanted to report that the student missed the last theoretical exam due to the fact that he had disappeared for a whole week. Shanu Tsishio, immediately nervous, and asked the teacher to sit down, pouring her a cup of tea. Meanwhile, the woman began to tell our hero that there are 5 types of awakening. Awakening to the element can turn the elements of the world into a weapon of attack. That is, wind, rain, thunder, electricity, and fire can be used for anything. A awakening physical force can strengthen its body and at the same time change its structure, including bone hardening, lengthening, and expansion of the limbs, as well as a possible change in appearance. The third type was awakening energy, which could improve the ability of the human body and strengthen its feelings. Awakers of thinking had a calm and flexible brain during the battle, powerful computational abilities and general coordination, and also developed the function of the brain almost to the limit. And the last, those who aroused the power of reason and used mental power to manipulate everyone around, even mutating creatures. In the end, Shanu Sisho simply fell asleep from tedious information, and the teacher herself actually planned to get the DNA of such a talented guy for her offspring. He woke up and began to apologize for staring at the textbook, but suddenly saw that the teacher was behaving strangely, so he thought that he was still sleeping. The woman explained that teachers should help her students, but Shanu Tsisho tried to stop her because she did not need any help. Suddenly, they both saw that the teacher accidentally pressed some hidden button behind the back of the protagonist. The wall rolled sharply, so our heroes flew into some dark room. There was no support, so our hero and teacher quickly flew down. They fell with a roar to the floor, and the guy, not understanding what was happening, looked around, trying to realize where he was. Shanu Tsixiao was surprised because he lived here for 20 years and did not know at all that a secret room was hidden under the hairdresser. Looking in the darkness, the protagonist noticed that in the middle of the room there was a locked chest. The guy was a master of hacking castles, so he quickly opened the chest, hoping that there was some kind of family relic of the Shan family. There were many things inside, but the main character immediately rushed an envelope with shadow scissors, which were the coat of arms of the family of killers. In a letter, the man wrote that when they desperate in the fate of the planet, the beam of light lit up his stomach of his just pregnant wife, and then he had to report on improving abilities before the hidden organization of K. Shanu Tsixiao immediately remembered that Duke mentioned this organization before his death, and now he understood that his parents went into the shadows and disappeared, although he had the highest genealogy, even better than that of the queen herself. Meanwhile, the teacher noticed that she saw this pair somewhere in the photo, and after reading the letter, she had too many questions about the fate of the planet. What the inhabitants of the Earth has been faced with hundreds of years later has nothing to do with it. But now she is in danger of being eaten by family members, so she needs to get our hero. The guy asked the teacher to keep everything secret, to which she replied that she agreed, but only if he obeyed her, and added that her husband is a high official, which will help in the investigation. After 3 days, Aryura returned to the academy and could not stop thinking that parents wrote about his penetration into the organization too, the participant of which was supposedly Professor Bai Mian. Before starting the lesson, the teacher presented a new translated student before the class, who turned out to be Biao, the son of General Hua Hao. A handsome man entered the class, who asked his brother Biao, and said that from that moment he would look after all the girls of Class A. The girls immediately led to the assets of the Kuahao military leader in tens of billions and began to admire the gold chain of a guy, which was released by a limited edition, was worth 15 million. Meanwhile, the brand new immediately noticed that among his classmates was the same girl who is the object of proposal of his father's hand and heart for him. A confident guy immediately decided that he would conquer the beauty in a second and make her abilities with his own. Lin Sinka remembered that her cousin told about this guy, but also heard that he was not awakened, so it was not known how he got to the academy. The main character immediately decided that it would be necessary to teach a lesson to this rich, who simply decided to show off. At this moment, a teacher came up to Shanu Tsixiao, who realized that her visit did not give any results, so she asked the student to go to her office after class. The young man informed his acquaintances that he would still go to the teacher, and Lin Sinka replied that she would return to the hostel and wait for him there. The woman said that Bai Mian for some time said that he was not greeted, so she asked permission to go home to rest. The main character understood that the professor was a real cunning, but was still sure that he could catch him for the foxtail. At the same time, Lin Sinka went outside and could not understand why rose petals fell from the sky. Si Yao told his lady to look at the sky. Where was Biao, who desperately tried to win the beauty he needed. The guy said that he had been waiting for a meeting with a young lady for a long time and specially transferred to this academy to meet with her. He also prepared a gift for her, so he asked the girl to look in the other direction where the rockets flew. Li Biao was sure that the missile fireworks, which he asked to prepare the expert specifically for Miss Sinka, would like his goal. The girl did not react to this gift because she already had someone who really liked it, and asked the newcomer to no longer pester her. Other students did not at all appreciate such a reaction, Lin Sinka, because they would be very moved if someone had admitted love. At that moment, the main character intervened in the situation, who also asked whether Biao not to pester a girl who obviously did not want to communicate with him. The rich man did not expect at all that a beauty would like some guy from a slum who did not even have parents. Shanu Xixiao could not resist when the brand new began to stutter about his parents because for him it was a sick theme. Lin Sinka stopped her lover and stated that she suffered Li Biao only because of her family, so she ordered him to apologize to her boyfriend. The girl was so angry that she was going to train to kill Li Biao, even if she was kicked out of the family and put him in prison. These phrases from the beauty immediately trampled all the hopes of the rich man for their awakening. Lin Sinka remembered that Xixiao always shot her anxiety and boredom when she was sad, and made her laugh. He was born in slums, but he always had high ideals and ambitions, and he often told various interesting stories of his childhood girlfriend. It was the main character who brought the joy of the girl's life in conditions of tense training, and listening to his boasting every day was the happiest time in her life. It turned out that Shanu Xixiao had heard Sinka from the innermost thoughts all this time, and was surprised that she really liked him so much. Li Biao just apologized to the girl because he realized that he could not cope only with money and I needed to use the amplifier. The rich man was sure that sooner or later he would receive the treasured Lin Sinka and her energy, and then ruthlessly ask her. Then he went to the student office and irritatedly opened the door from his feet to ask his friend why his cousin was in love with some smelly toad. The young man tried to reassure the young master and explained that this was just a temporary hobby of Shinki. Li Biao did not believe in this nonsense because it recently turned out that this type was awakened with the triple system. So even his influential father was not able to do anything with such a strong person. After lessons and long training, the protagonist rested in the hostel with his lover. Suddenly, armed people broke into their room, because of which Shanu Xixiao was very angry and asked Zinki to appeal to his lawyer and sue them. It turned out that the military leadership accused the guy of the fact that he was a traitor, cooperating with a zombie, and was released to people for a spy. Lin Sinka did not believe in all these accusations because her lover was a hero with an awakened three-tied system, so strong evidence is needed to prove this cooperation. Then one of the soldiers demonstrated that the satellite tracked the trajectory of the protagonist, who showed that he remained on the territory of the zombie for 7 days, which contradicts his previous statement. Shanu Xixiao guessed that this was the work of the young master, and decided that he should not ask Sinki to hypnotize the military with his own mind because it could harm her. The guy reassured the girl and still decided to agree to go with the military to prove that he was not a traitor. The girl promised that she would go to Luo's lawyer, and if the soldiers dared to torture her lover or to knock out a confession, she would suck them all. As expected, Li Biao was involved in this, and specially borrowed the radar location system of the family, and finally found a clue to get rid of his opponent. After some time, the main character woke up with pain in his head and could not understand that he was in prison for the awakened. The gadget spoke sharply on the neck of a young man who said where he was, and asked to strictly follow the rules of conduct set forth in the instructions. With the help of superstores, our hero saw that at least 8 surveillance devices were hidden in the cell, and all the walls made from the awakened titanium alloy. Shanu Xixiao got angry even more when I read that now it would be necessary to go to work every day, which was done in order to survive all the forces from prisoners. At this moment, they announced that lunch has now begun and all prisoners should gather in the dining room. So the guy decided to postpone all the problems for later. In the dining room, he was expected by an frustrated delicious bio. Wisdom, prepared by maximum radiation of nutrients from the meat of mutated animals. Shanu Xixiao believed that it was the worst food in a world that even dogs would not eat. Other prisoners noticed that they had a newcomer and began to threaten our hero so that he dutifully give his food to the elders and ran away from here, holding his tail. The guy tried to use his strength to give back, but the system reported that if you use more than 1/10 of the awakened force, an anesthetic would be forcibly introduced into the body. The prison group, which called herself Awakened by Prison Special Forces, laughed that the newcomer still wanted to use her strength. The main character understood that he had the highest blood, so physical strength was different from others. There was also the blood of Queen Zombies and buff of protection. Shanut Sisyo, with confidence in his voice, invited all the brave men to approach him so that he would demonstrate his strength. The prisoners believed that these were too loud words from such a fry, so they wanted to force him to answer for his audacity. A large number of strokes flew into the main character at once, but he continued to stand still, as if nothing had happened. Shanut Sisyo was tired of waiting, so he used the strengthening of physical strength with the help of the blood of the Queen Zombie and threw back all the rivals from him. Now the prisoners realized that this guy was also awakened and was much stronger than everyone else. Then a girl, nicknamed a Big Brother, who all the guys immediately asked to teach the new one, intervened in the situation. The main character could not understand why the girl had such a strange nickname, so he decided to directly ask about it. He turned away and said that she was not fighting with female individuals because he was a real gentleman. The Big Brother was in shock because she could not understand how the new one noticed her feature because she carefully tried to hide it. Other prisoners stood up for their boss and, without realizing the truth, said that he was just a little like a girl. In the end, Shanut Sisyo realized that this situation was simply not solved, so she decided to compete and find out that they were also a real man of them. The elder brother ordered our hero to stop and go to eat to go to work after lunch. Looking at her, the main character suggested that she did not want her younger to know that she is a girl, because it would reduce authority. Still, the young man decided not to expose the true personality of his rival. Meanwhile, the prisoners were ordered to go to the third working area to collect energy ores, and our hero decided to ask his older brother why there are no guards. She explained that this place is under the full observation of special services, and callers can freely limit all prisoners, so those who enter here will never be able to come out. The voice from the caller told our hero that today we need to get 100 energy ores per person in 3 hours. The prisoners were not particularly satisfied with such a task, because it was quite complicated, but at the same time they noticed that they were allowed to use more strength. In turn, the main character decided not to use physical strength and hit with a picking in random places, but turned to the ability to perceive ore, because it will be much more effective. The restriction still did not allow the guy to use his strength with might and main. But when he saw where the ore underground was located, he understood that it would be difficult for one person to cope with such a task. Meanwhile, the older brother was fried and decided to warn the beginner that if he did not finish for the allotted time, he would be forcibly punished by the caller. Shanut Sisyo offered to boss cooperation by revealing his ability to find ore, and the girl instantly realized that he had a rare double awakening. The girl was not against cooperation, so she asked her companions nicknamed Three Gophers to help our hero, and warned that he would regret a lot if she deceived. The young man decided to immediately demonstrate her skills and indicated with absolute accuracy where the ore was located. The prisoner followed the instructions of the protagonist, and was easy to find a lot of energy ores, which he proved that he did not lie at all. Now everyone actively began to work and accompanied the mining ores about a song about an older brother. The elder brother thought that the ability of a new one is really good, because having only a quarter of his strength, he can determine the whereabouts underground. Half an hour later, a team of prisoners of resin without problems to complete today's task, and now they could relax. Now the guys who used to fight with our hero praised him and were going to call his second brother. But Chasisao did not hold resentment and considered them good guys. The night came and the older brother was just preparing, touched all her bandages on the body when someone knocked her in the door. It turned out that this was the main character who just felt that the girl felt bad today. She did not expect at all that the guy's ability would be stronger than ordinary people, because he saw many things that others did not notice. And Shanut Sisyo himself came to help his older brother. The girl did not expect to hear such a strange offer, and our hero explained that friends should help each other. The subordinates noticed that the newcomer entered the boss's room, and now they eavesdropped what was happening there. After some time, the older brother really felt relieved, because now the whole body was comfortable, and the pain was completely disappeared. Quite unexpectedly, the main character invited the boss to unite and to escape from the prison of the awakened. The girl did not particularly believe in such a plan, because in prison, the awakened prison of the awakened, tens of thousands of observations and collars that they wear on their necks were installed, so it was difficult to break the whole system. Shanut Sisyo explained that there was nothing to worry about, because in fact he was awakened with the triple system and still had the power of reason. The elder brother admitted that our hero was really strong, and said that there are 5 public zones, 6 working zones, and 3 residential premises on this island. The young man decided that he needed to plan everything well, and wanted to go to bed after a hard day. but the girl suddenly stopped him. She embarrassedly asked the protagonist to stay in her cell, because I still had to tell a lot. Shan Tixiao immediately arose a considerable number of questions, and he guessed that the girl would just talk. At 5 o'clock in the morning, our hero woke a notification that everyone should gather in a common dining room for breakfast, and also announced that he had a visitor. Waking up, the guy realized that someone really came to him, and immediately thought that it was his beloved Jinke. It turned out that it was just Li Biao, who I came to a tenderness over my opponent and asked why he was in prison. The main character was very angry when he saw his main enemy, and immediately guessed that it was he who took advantage of his privileges to plant him. Then the rich man demonstrated the marriage contract, which he signed with Lin Sinka, and said that next week they would hold a wedding. The signature in the document was really like, but Shan Tixiao was still sure that it was a fake, and now he tried to understand what Biao had planned. Li Biao could not understand why our hero did not react to this news in any way, and thought that he was just thinking tightly, so he decided to leave him alone. During breakfast, our hero met with his older brother, who said that they were all in prison because they were more or less insulted by the military leader. How 3 markments were so carried away by work that they did not notice how the generals of the general house gave rise to. The next day, the military had already come behind them. Now, Shan Tixiao realized that he was dealing with a nest of snakes and rats, abusing his power, and concluded that today, Biao visited him to provoke an escape from prison. During lunch, the system reported a malfunction and that the expected repair time in 10 minutes, asking all prisoners to stay in their places. Shan Tixiao instantly guessed that during the disconnection of the system, the restraining collar would also not work. One of the prisoners showed a map on which he worked for 3 months and offered to escape right now. The older brother immediately thought that the monitor system never had failing from the moment of its conclusion, so such an opportunity falls out only once in a lifetime. But our hero suspected that everything was going too smoothly. The girl had already seen that there was a way out of prison ahead, so she asked everyone to run quickly in order to achieve victory, which was no longer around the corner. As it turned out, armed soldiers were already waiting for all the prisoners, who accurately planned something. The main character quickly stopped his older brother because he heard the reload of the weapon behind the gate and realized that someone had an ambush. The soldiers could not understand what the problem was because their master clearly ordered them to stay here to guard the gate. But for some reason, he still did not come out. Still, the mercenaries could not stand it and decided to open the gate themselves because they had just clearly heard the steps of the prisoners. But now there was absolute silence. As a result, they only witnessed the fact that all the prisoners were calmly crushed and were not going to run away at all. The older brother used the strengthening of physical strength, and she rushed to the soldiers so that they would not interfere with their entertainment. Meanwhile, the main character explained that it is impossible to escape now, because it will be difficult to take off their suspicion further, simply put on the wanted list. At the moment, the escape from prison is no longer possible, so they should first look for the boss in the Zone A, which disappeared several months ago, see if he can help with something. Shan Tixiao began to reflect on who the head of the prison was, and noticed that recently he liked using his music. Therefore, it is not likely that he could discover the power of thinking. During 3 hours of free time, our team went to the person he needed, and the main character decided to ask if the chief of the prison was on the general side. The elder brother said that they received a lot of care from the boss after they were mistakenly concluded, but mysteriously disappeared 3 months ago. After some time, they came to place, but the girl warned that everyone was careful because no one knew what was in the Forbidden Zone, what to go to. Our hero understood that it would be difficult for him to look for goals with part of his strength, and was not sure that the boss would still be able to somehow help. After some time, the prisoners were tired because they searched most of the island, but could not find anything. They sat down on a stone, but as a result they saw that it was a huge turtle who did not like a violation of its peace. The whole team was seriously scared because they saw that there were several mutating animals, so they began to quickly run away. The main character tried to save his older brother, and he himself was unhappy that, because of the collar, he could not use all his strength. In turn, the girl was not at all scared, and with her back to the back with Shan Tixiao began to defend the turtles. The turtles were also not going to give up, so Palm 1-1 began to merge on their shells to make new plants. The mutated plant began to spray paralyzing powder, and the older brother only now realized that her actions were too careless. The prisoners immediately saw that their bosses were poisoned, so they ran up to save him. Shan Tixiao grabbed the girl and began to think that in principle he could use his zombie blood to strengthen his body and continue the battle. Suddenly, he saw that someone used the awakening of lightning and destroyed all their rivals. It turned out that this was the head of the prison, behind which all the prisoners had come. The main character, I did not expect that this strange old man would be needed by him. Then, the guys surrounded their boss and began to worry about his condition. And the old man explained that the powder not only paralyzed the nerves of the human body, but also distinguished viruses that destroy the immune system. The main character understood that this was an emergency, so he hoped that his strength of reason would be the fortune to save the girl from the deadly virus in the body. The boss decided to remove the collar from Shanu Xixiao so that he could use his strength because he would like to see how he uses his strength of mind for treatment. The guy felt that the virus spread too much in her body, so now he was not sure that he could help, but was still going to try his best. On this day, cages in the body of an older brother remembered the fear of being in the power of the virus. The virus could very quickly play himself, so at high speed he filled the girl's whole body. The cells were not at all ready for such a powerful attack, so they incredibly needed external help. At the last moment, the main character was able to save the situation, who, with the help of his strength of the mind, was going to immobilize all the dividing viral cells. The cells immediately pierced with a warm stream, which filled them with energy to fight the virus. At this moment, the real battle began, and all the viral cells really could no longer move after exposure to the power of Shangxiao. Further, our hero sent a girl's cells to battle, which he was able to restore. The leukocytes reinforced by Xiao have corrected the fulfillment of their mission. It was the destruction of viruses and maintaining order in the body. Meanwhile, the guy was able to get to the head of the viruses, who was now kneeling and prayed to mercy, and recommended that he be careful in the next life. The cells united to destroy the source of the virus as quickly as possible and protect its world. In the end, they thanked the protagonist, because if not for his help, this body would have already been destroyed. At that moment, the older brother finally woke up. Because she began to feel that she was much better, the old man immediately thanked the young and promising Chan Zixiao, whom he now considered the formidable future generation. The head of the prison said that he would be able to provide evidence of the innocence of all prisoners if our hero can cure him. The young man used promising vision and saw that this was connected with the old man's meridians, and he was surprised at such capabilities of Chasisao, and for a second forgot that he was awakened with a triple system. Meanwhile, the elder brother admired that our hero was so strong and almost died, trying to save all his comrades. The head of the prison began his story that it was the third total war between people and mutating animals when he was the commander of the Fourth Army, which was the main force in the crusade against animals. It was during this crusade that his meridians were seriously damaged after a collision with the Queen of Orcs. The old man wanted to be a ferocious warrior, but after the injury he could only end the rest of his life on the island. But at the same time, he could not stand aside, because all three of his sons died on the battlefield. The elder brother immediately asked if our hero could cope with the head of the boss, although to restore the meridians, not such a simple task. At first, Shanu Xixia decided to use the power of reason to stimulate the acupuncture points around the meridian to relax them a little. With the help of this, the guy into the body of his patient and see how the man awakened the power of the elements looked from the inside. Our hero looked around and guessed that, having collected all the scattered elements of lightning, the meridians can be restored. Now he was sure that everything was simple, so he immediately began the cells that were scattered around. It turned out that everything was not so simple, because the cells were difficult and struck by the chance Cisao. The power of the element of lightning in the body of the head of the prison was too great, so she almost killed the protagonist when he relaxed the meridians. The girl asked her partner not to be so persistent and offered help, but he understood that no one could cope with this without the power of reason. The old man asked to forget about it because he already realized that everyone was good children and was ready to use all his connections to find evidence of their innocence. But our hero was not going to throw words into the wind. Shanu Xixiao decided to use the full control of the power of the mind and this time try to put the elements of lightning in the chain. The guy succeeded, so before success there was only one step, namely, drive this whole chain into the meridians. Further, the main character struck the final blow and returned all the elements of lightning to his place. The old man began to feel that damaged meridians are reorganized and restored, and the functions of his body become even more strongly than before. In the end, he felt that the forces were completely restored, and his body was again full of energy, so he could again gallop in battle against the mutated animals. The boss thanked the young man for his help and said in all seriousness that his medical abilities were the best in Huahao. At the same time, The guy did not understand what was happening because he could not bear the power of lightning elements that arose when he returned the meridians to place, although everything happened the other way around. Meanwhile, Lin Sinka thought about how to prove the innocence of Sisho, and finally received evidence from the head of the prison about the conspiracy of the military leader with the police and his deputy. She instantly went to a law firm to provide all these documents to a lawyer and prove that the general's family used her power randomly arrested people. Luo Xiang could not restrain his emotions because this was a real distortion of human nature and the loss of morality, and he could not allow anyone to dispute the authority of the Hu Hao law. After some time, the news that lawyer Luo Xiang, an expert on criminal cases, was defended by Shanu Kushio, has already scattered throughout the academy. A video appeared on social networks where a man resolutely condemned the general and his family for the use of power, protecting all those people who unreasonably suffered from their actions. In the end, Si Yao and Lin Sinka were able to ensure that the general could not withstand this pressure and promise everyone to free. At the same time, everyone began to spread rot by Biao for the fact that his immoral acts almost killed the genius of Shanuzi Sao. The girls, too, did not remain silent and crushed the rich man's feet to warn that it was the last time they spared him. In fact, the guy was still not going to give up just like that and was sure that tomorrow he could get a super-sucking strengthening potion that would help him get his goal and kill our hero. At that moment, in prison, they announced that after receiving the instructions of the authorities, all prisoners of the zone prisoner and would be exempted with the removal of all charges, which is why everyone was incredibly rejoiced. The gate opened sharply, opening the path behind which free people had already met the dawn of the new day. The main character hastened to take his partner to the wild, but for some reason she was in no hurry to leave the prison. Shanu Xixiao noticed that even though they could leave the prison right now, the girl still did not look happy. Then she explained that she simply did not know where to go after she leaves prison, because there is still no place for them outside. This conversation was heard by the head of the prison, who invited the guys to join his expedition in order to defeat the mutated animals and contribute to the Hu Hao case. The prisoners were very touched by such a proposal, because some had a dream since childhood, but our hero refused because he wanted to continue his studies at the combat academy. The old man accepted such an answer from the guy and then turned to his older brother, who was now very embarrassed because she had to admit something. The girl asked for forgiveness for deceiving everyone around all this time and admitted that she was a girl, so now she believed that she was not worthy to be their boss. This information fell on the guys, like a thunder among a clear sky, although they had noticed some features of their boss earlier. At the same time, it touched them a lot because never in their lives they saw such a beautiful and powerful girl. And now they agreed to follow her for the rest of their lives. The protagonist interrupted this conversation and said that he urgently needed to return, but the head of the prison was sure that they would still meet. In the end, the girl kissed Shanu Tsisho in gratitude and promised that she would become stronger for their next meeting. The young man wanted to return to Zinka as quickly as possible because he did not know what the young master did during his absence. It turned out that Li Biao was already here and hid under the nearest tree, eavesdropping all the farewells with the main character. Shanu Xixiao was not going to restrain himself because he wanted to deal with a man who abused his power as soon as possible, threw good people into prison, and molested his lover. The rich man predicted everything, so he used the teleportation bracelet to go to where no one would hurt them. He went to some kind of wasteland because he believed that this was a great place for a fight and wanted our hero to die in such a place. In turn, Shanu Xixiao believed that the villains were dying because they chatting too much, and his opponent shouted directly to be killed. Li Biao believed that the main character was an idiot who knows how to use only fists, and said that he also had awakened physical strength. He really was able to gain incredible forces, so now he could easily tear out a piece of land. The main character could not believe that his opponent was so strong, and did not know that he managed to arouse physical strength. Fortunately, Shanu Tsisho was awakened with a triple system and still knew how to use the power of his eyes. Li Biao knew these tricks of his enemy, so he used a furious wind blade so that he could not see his weaknesses. Our hero began to notice that something was wrong here, because the opponent was not awakened before, but now not only aroused physical strength, but also used the element of the wind. Li Biao wanted to quickly deal with his main enemy in order to bring his head as a gift for Lin Sinka. Meanwhile, Shan Tixiao began to feel that he could not just fight back, so he decided to concentrate first on the feeling of direction and speed of air molecules. Then, he would try to control it. As a result, the young man managed to crank his plan, and his opponent could not believe that he really used the power of his mind to change the direction of the wind. Then the main character approached Li Biao and said that he still could not resist him, but the rich man was holding some other infection behind his back. In the end, Li Biao, without any doubt, was injected into himself an enhancing drug and said that he was actually an omnipotent awakened. Shanut Xixiao was shocked because he now saw that the energy in his opponent's body was madly increased, exceeding the threshold. The guy did not even know which medicine could be used by Biao for such a strong effect. Li Biao explained that it was a state of omnipotent awakening and felt that his blood was in full swing and the force whips out. Now he was sure that he was so 1 billion. And awakened with the triple system was not something unusual. Our hero noted that the potion not only significantly increases the basic energy of the body, but also activates all awakening abilities, and concluded that this is simply an improved version of Duke's potion. It was also tangible that the chip of the elements was 10 times stronger than the previous Windblade. But, fortunately, Shanu Tu's also has an ace in the sleeve in the form of physical strength to improve his protection and simply observe his opponent. Li Biao noticed that the guy was quite persistent, but did not stop and used a high-level attack with an element of the wind. The main character advised his enemy not to underestimate him, and in response to the attack used the maximum strengthening of the limbs. The young man began to concentrate to use the maximum amount of power and began to feel some new changes in his body. Suddenly, he felt that an awakening element appeared in his body. Shanu Tsisio suggested that during the treatment of the head of the prison, his body absorbed the elements of lightning, which, under the influence of the energy of the young master, activated the spontaneous ability. At the same time, thanks to the blood of the zombie, the wounds on his body quickly healed, so there were no problems to use the element of lightning. In addition, the teacher said just at her lectures that the element of lightning restrains the element of the wind. Li Biao was shocked when he saw that his opponent was able to awaken the element, because in Hua Hao, there had never been awakened with 4 systems. Our hero ironically thanked his enemy for accelerating his new awakening and decided to possess the Massif of the King of Thunder and Lightning. A considerable amount of lightning began to attack the young master, because of which he simply fell to the ground. Shanu Tsisho has exhausted almost the entire power of the elements in his body on this attack, so he hoped that the opponent was still dead. Unfortunately, Li Biao had the strength, because he was an omnipotent awakened with 5 elements and could now use fire, which easily wins the zipper. The young master used the awakening of the power of reason to manipulate his strength, and found weaknesses with the main character. He was not going to observe combat ethics at all and attacked the most vulnerable delicate place of Shanu Xixiao, because of which he felt incredible pain. Meanwhile, Li Biao managed to activate forecasting, and now without problems could completely understand the attacks of our hero, his model of behavior, and micro-aging. Shanu Xixiao did not even know that the ability to foresee appeared after the awakening of the strength of the mind. And now he tried to understand what the best way to defeat his opponent. Then our hero remembered the Queen of Zombies and decided to take the opportunity to call her double. The young gentleman thought that the guy was completely touched by his mind in prison, that now he turned to some beautiful queen and decided to deliver the final blow a lot or a multi-elemental ball. The queen did not appreciate the fact that Shanu Tsisho called her for some insignificant trifle and considered it boring. She was very angry that some mortal dared to raise her hand on her subordinate. The queen was not going to kill Li Biao with her own hands and left it for the protagonist, the guy with a mockery in his voice, and asked the young master whether there were side effects of the potion so serious that now he was just lying on the ground. Li Biao now sorry that he could not get the ability of Lin Sinka, because of which he had to use this potion. Our hero could not believe that his opponent was still obsessed with Sinka's abilities and was about to teach him for it. The young gentleman confessed that he did not participate in the experiment with this potion at all and simply used family money to get this power, mocking people to get this essence. Now the main character understood that his rival was a ruthless person because he killed the subjects and forcibly transformed their bodies only for his benefit. The last question that was interested in Shanu Tsisho was the whereabouts of the laboratory of Bai Miana. Shanu Tsisho did not want to feel pain, so he said that the last deal occurred in the laboratory in the 317th district, where the professor gave him a potion of complete awakening. The main character quickly saddled his flying pig and called Lin Sinka to call the police and went to the 317th district. After listening to all the instructions, the girl was very delighted that her lover had finally left prison and promised to fulfill his request. Shanu Xixiao easily reached the right place where he was met by huge doors to the very laboratory. All his acquaintances came to the aid of the guy, and Lin Sinka asked what was happening here. Then our hero said that Bai Mian was a spy of the organization K to the academy and conducted pharmaceutical experiments here. The soldiers were not aware of what was in the laboratory, so their leader asked everyone to be careful. Everyone went inside and immediately felt an unpleasant fish smell, and the police divided and began to look for suspicious objects. The protagonist examined the entire territory and finally concluded that Bai Mian left this place. Suddenly, everyone heard someone frightened scream and ran to this place where they saw the frightened Si Yao. It turned out that she found a place where there were the bodies of those people in which Bai Mian conducted his cruel experiments. Shanu Tsishio came closer and saw that awakening energy fluctuations still remain in the bodies of these people, which meant that they were still alive. Meanwhile, the teacher, having examined the room, pointed out that a three-dimensional hologram stood on the table. It was a high-tech communication tool that could record information in real time, and its contents are represented in the form of three-dimensional images. In fact, Bai Mian specifically told Biao about this place and guessed that our hero would find a way here. Lin Sinka immediately guessed that the professor left this video specifically for them. Meanwhile, he talked about the fact that he had noticed our hero from the very beginning and did not expect that he would survive the sacrifice, and then found that he had an unusual relationship with Miss Lin's family. In order to get the data of the new party of the students of the academy, Professor Viked objection and allowed Duck to get into the archival room, but did not expect that Chasisao would quickly find him. Bai Mian also said that, unfortunately, most of his subjects suddenly died, and a very small number of suitable people dried up, because of which they became vegetables. He convinced Biao to adapt his body to use the potion, sold it a universal remedy at an inflated price, hiding side effects, and used a duel with the main character to collect experimental data. The professor used the guys as pawns in his experiment, handed Duke a map with the whereabouts of the potion, which, according to data, leads to violent death a few months later. He believed that in the end the fate of those who were born in the slums was really sad, like a builder's ant. Our hero did not agree with this because even the instructor Jiang Lan was from a poor family, but was able to succeed. In turn, the professor was sure that the body of Shanu Tsishio was hiding secrets and unknown potential, so far he decided to leave him alive to get more valuable data. The teacher said that her husband conducted an investigation and found out that the parents of Shanu Tsishio disappeared 20 years ago after receiving a military mission of the level of S to penetrate the organization. The main character now hated the organization even more, and promised once to find his parents, find out the truth, and simply destroy it. Meanwhile, the soldiers reported that all the rooms were searched, but Bai Mian took all the important things. Lin Sinka promised that she would always be next to her lover, and offered to return to the hostel in order to rest well. In the hostel, our hero went to the shower and did not stop thinking that Bai Mian fled back to the organization, and nothing was known about his parents. 3 hours after the rest, Shanu Tsishio was in the star's heritage space, where he was informed that he needed to merge 10,000 times because the owner's body has a zombie poison and a weak division of death. The guy did not understand how he should practice 7 times every day, but at the same time he could not endanger himself due to the fact that they were associated with Shinke. He perfectly understood that now he had a huge number of problems, but for a start, he decided to deal with the problem of dividing death. Xiao noticed that the master left in the middle of the night and immediately suspected that he was dating another girl behind Miss. In fact, recently, Shanu Tsishio lacked money, since the hairdresser was almost always closed. Only letters were given for heroism, not money, so he had to work out at night. The maid thought that the guy planned to visit several girls at once, without realizing his part. Time job. At night, the guy was engaged in the delivery of parcels and now arrived in the next house in the rich area, where security was met at the entrance. Shanu Tsishio calmly explained that he was a courier who brought the late-night snack ordered by Mrs. Van. The guards were absolutely spitting, because the eldest lady forbade the young miss to eat harmful food. The main character was not going to endure such an attitude to himself, and decided to deal with the security, which did not allow him to fulfill the order, because the client's desire was law. Then Miss Van herself ran out of the house, who asked the deliverer to abandon her food, but the guard tried to stop her. The girl did not see anything bad in the snack, and our hero considered that these guys were completely insolent and ordered them to release his client. At this moment, Shanu Tsishio had already received a notification that he should give an order as soon as possible. So he did not hesitate and jumped over the fence to fulfill the client's desire. One of the guards immediately ordered the guy to grab the guy. because he dared to break into their territory. The main character warned that orders should be delivered on time, since couriers start work early, returning late, and the service can deprive him of a bonus for being late. Having dealt with all his rivals, the young man finally was able to deliver his clients to food in complete integrity and safety. Shanu Xixiao asked not to say any thanks, because the main goal of their company to feed everyone who needs it. Miss Van admired such a noble deed of the protagonist and wanted to find out the number of his phone. Outside the gates, the young man met with Si Yao and invited her to return home to relax a bit. She admitted that she followed the Chan's Xixio, and he explained that he now lacks money and, moreover, his neighbor Aunt Zhang fell ill, so he wanted to help her with money. The maid admired the fact that the guy was leaning, but still helped others, and was upset because she doubted him. She was so lost in her thoughts that she did not notice how the main character flew away on his flying pig. In the end, Shanu Xixiao, with his youth today's goal and earned 8,500 yuan. So now he planned to bring Aunt Zhang Trushbach. The main character arrived at the place and became a witness to how all the inhabitants fled somewhere, because the protecting wall was destroyed and now the orcs attacked the city. Huge mutating animals destroyed everything in their path and were about to expel people from this land. Shanu Xixiao has long known that the slums were the lowest walls in the whole city, so the orcs decided to attack from this point. The monsters laughed ominously and called people insignificant and ants, which they were just about to trample. The main character instantly intervened in the situation and stopped the orcs so that civilians could run away and hide somewhere. He was absolutely confident in his abilities and was going to resist the orcs so that they could never. Shanu Xixiao in a few seconds coped with all rivals without any special effort. The leader of the orcs ordered his subordinates and not to contact this guy, and the scouts must follow them further and not forget about the main goal. Inside the city itself, the inhabitants have already seen. The curtains really sent their hidden soldiers. The main character quickly ran to defense and tried from one of the soldiers to take his neighbors from the slum. Suddenly, a stranger who asked him to wait for him to wait. The guy thought it was the leader of the orcs because he felt that the girl was very strong and had no less than A level law. He directly decided to ask her why the orcs invaded the territory of people for no good reason. The girl explained that she was a guard and also believed that they had reasons because people managed to leave behind a trace. People always considered themselves older among all living things and thought that they were at the top of the food chain. But in fact, they killed other mammals pointless to satisfy their desires. Hundreds of years ago, they studied various ways of killing animals, including sluggish, steaming, these stews, and frying, which was rather cruel than the way of life of the orcs. In the end, the girl decided to use the combat mode to take revenge on all the orcs. Thus, she began the crusade against humanity and increased the attack of every orc. Our hero could not understand where such a number of monsters came from, and already thought that they would really end. Suddenly, the sisters from the slum noticed that the military had already walked to them to help in the confrontation. It turned out that it was a team of the academy, whose leaders were instructor Jianlan and Lin Sinka. The girl landed on the ground and explained that the military had an alarm in the middle of the night, saying that the orcs were attacking the city in different areas and the slums were about to fall. She was confident in her abilities and decided to punish the monsters for the fact that they wanted to attack stealthily. One of the monsters noticed that people had reinforcements, so I decided to use the stew that they prepared specifically for the fight. As it turned out, this soup was hot and poisonous, so all the soldiers received strong injuries. Lin Sinka used a healing shield to support the soldier and asked if they were now in order. The time of the orcs fought with the main character, but he used the strengthening of the zombie and began to look for weaknesses. The half-man girl said that in this state, her weapon becomes more powerful by 10 times, and invited the guy to taste the wrath of her hammer. But the strengthening of the body has never failed Shanu Xixiao, so he wanted to see what his opponent was capable of. In the end, our hero was able to pick up her weapon and use the lightning of the abduction of his hearts. The girl was now sure that people were very vile because it was too vile reception. Now our hero realized that this works even against beer, like girls, and the orcs ordered distant soldiers to help their leader. Far battle soldiers were just skunks who used an unpleasant odor as shells. The guard began to retreat quickly, and Shanu Xixiao did not have time to react and simply began to suffocate from the gas attack. Shanu Xixiao gathered his strength and ordered his allies to not let the guard run away, because they cannot give them to destroy their city, which was built with such difficulty. Zhang Lan said that the soldiers reported to him that there were not enough people in the rich area, so they wanted the team of the academy to abandon the slums and go there. The protagonist was very outraged by such an attitude of the military to ordinary people, and Lin Sinka offered to go to the territory of the orcs in order to save people. At the same time, Shanu Tsisyo understood that he could not risk the lives of his team, so he asked them to go to other areas while he thought about the further plan. Also, he could not watch how they sacrificed all those who took care of him since childhood. After the departure of Sinki and Siyao, the sisters asked to go to the house with him for some help. It turned out that the main character wanted to use girls for practice to get rid of the separation of death. After the practice of the girl, a surge of energy in the entire body and elements of the lightning that filled them. Finally, the guy was able to get rid of the division of death and now could be as reckless as possible without endangering his beloved. Shanu Tsisyao now also gained strength and sat on a flying pig to go to the lair of orcs and save the abducted inhabitants of the slum. The sisters who helped him admiringly watched and asked the hero to return whole and unharmed. Meanwhile, our hero accelerated his pig as much as possible because he understood that he needed to hurry. The orcs managed to pick up many inhabitants, so saving all of them will be a rather troublesome task. Last time, Shanu Tsisho used his power of reason to remove the deadly virus from the older sister, so now it would be possible to use manipulations to control simple body cells. At first, he decided to focus his thoughts on cells in the whole body, and then imagine a beautiful orc. In the end, the main character really began to feel that his appearance began to change. He did not expect at all that he would completely grow in wool and turn into a real monkey, so he now understood that manipulation of cells needed greater control. The young man had good haircut skills, so he was able to quickly correct the situation and successfully complete his transformation. As a result, Shan Tixiao was still stopped at the entrance to the territory of the orcs, because they considered that it looks too strange. Then the guy connected all the possible acting and came up with the story that his family was kidnapped and he himself was expelled from his hometown. This story was very touched by the guards, so they allowed our hero to go to the territory and relax. Now Shanu Tsixiao was able to see that not all orcs are evil, but there are ordinary, living in an ordinary rural life. At that moment, some strange, but very beautiful deer came to him. Frightened guards came running behind him, who said that this morning the princess suddenly became furious, was confused and turned into a beast. The protagonist quickly applied promising vision and noticed that in the wound on the princess's back, a spider hid, which causes her troubles. He abruptly jumped into a deer to help, but she was scared and began to run away, and the guards began to threaten a stranger. Shanu Tsixiao did not think that he could pull the spider by force, so he decided to use the power of reason to first extract salt from his body and condense them to crystals. The guy continued to calm the beast, explaining that he just wanted to help and soon everything will be fine. In the end, the spider could not withstand external exposure and jumped out of the wound. Shanu Tsixiao explained that salty water is a hypertensive solution. Therefore, with a high concentration, insects are dehydrated and go outside. He noticed that the pattern on the body of this spider was too strange and something was definitely wrong. So he began to suspect that someone threw this insect. Meanwhile, the princess returned to her original appearance and thanked the beautiful warrior for their help. She even kissed her savior on the cheek, and the guards asked if there was everything with the princess. The young man did not expect at all that he would save someone influential as soon as he came to the orc plaster. So now he hoped that it would be much easier to collect information. The orcs had warm hospitality, so one of the guards wanted to feed our hero beef soup, who was familiar with their new friendship. Shanu Tsisho felt some strange smell from the dish, but he understood that he needed to establish good relations with the orcs and successfully save the townspeople, for which he needed to try the soup. Suddenly, the guard said that this soup was taken out of its intestines with the help of the strength of the mind, retaining its original taste. Having learned the way of cooking, the main character had to speak through force about the excellent taste of this dish. Meanwhile, the princess wanted to ask what was the name of the beautiful warrior and complained that she was not enough for her personal doctor nearby. Our hero immediately came up with that his name is Sun Ukon, which means the king of monkeys, and expressed his readiness to serve Royal Highness. At this moment, another representative of the orcs intervened, who said that, according to their traditions, a stranger man should serve 5 years with a slave. First, he will be able to join the tribe. The princess explained to the national advisor that this young man had cured her, so she has no right to show disrespect for him. Then the advisor suggested that the stranger could allow participating in the battles, because they, orcs, always appreciated strength. The girl was frightened because she believed that it was too risky, but our hero was not against it, because he believed that this was some kind of small fight. The advisor was not opposed to personally divert the chanced Sisho to the site, because she wanted to get rid of this unnecessary monkey as soon as possible. She rudely threw him at the waiting place and ordered him to wait until his turn came to join the battle. In his imagination, Shanu Xiao began to imagine how he would avenge this impudent girl after the tournament wins. From around the corner, the already beaten orc starter appeared, who advised the newcomer to look around. The guy listened to the stranger, and as a result saw a considerable number of wounded around, guessing that they all received wounds during the tournament. From this situation, Shanu Xiao concluded that the orc tribe was a matriarchal society, and only women in high positions were in high positions. The princess, who was worried about the fate of our hero, and her guards, who were sure that he had a trump card in his sleeve, were already in the arena. The guy just went to the arena and charismatically turned to Her Highness, promising to win this battle. Meanwhile, the advisor announced that the 18th group duel had begun. In a second, Shanu Xiao found the weakest place in his opponent and attacked the most secret part of his body. The girl was very angry that the monkey from which she tried to get rid of so easily coped with a strong warrior. Then she decided to release 5 generals into the arena, but the main character also adhered to the plan and quickly dealt with everyone. All the audience admired his skills and now wanted to stay away, because they were painful only from one glance at the battle. Then the national advisor ordered the employee to release fighters of the leader level against the monkey. The next second, a fierce minotaur entered the arena, which was ready to simply break our hero. Shanu Xiao immediately admitted that his opponent is worthy of the leader's level, and again wanted to look at his weaknesses. The minotaur immediately emphasized that he saw previous battles, so he immediately defended tender places on his body. Now Shanu Xiao perfectly understood that the previous method would not work, so we need to look for a new way of battle. He almost forgot that Aunt Zhang gave him red underwear on his birthday, which could just provoke this bull. The young man showed his secret weapon to the minotaur and carefully watched how he would react to him. The orc immediately really did not like the fact that some small boy decided to mock him. Now our hero could easily get to his goal in order to paralyze it with the help of electricity. All the audience could not believe that the stranger was able to defeat the leader's level of the leader in a few minutes. Now the princess wanted Mr. Sun to remain with her forever, because he was incredibly intelligent and brave. Then the advisor released her last fighter to the ring, who had a natural talent to restrain male orcs. A girl who looked much more powerful than all previous rivals of the protagonist looked at the arena. The advisor threw up her head high and solemnly stated that the final battle would determine the outcome. Our hero understood that the situation became much worse, because earlier he fought only with orcs men. But now, a killer girl suddenly appeared, who was much stronger. He also noticed that this killer was very clever, so he was afraid that it would be very difficult to cope with her. Meanwhile, the rival said that she recently mastered a new combined technique called a Hurricane Chaotic Sound Wave, and Chasasao did not expect that she would start with such a powerful attack. The guy began to be more and more afraid, because the speed of this killer is much superior to him. But his pedigree at least somehow lugged the situation. The rival became interested, because the lower-level fighter actually could block her attack. The princess believed that this is not fair, because the Shadow Bat has the level of the leader, and this is above the level of Mr. Sunya. The advisor who started all this was not going to listen to her, because during the absence of the queen, it was she who guards the country and acts on behalf of Her Highness. In the meantime, she decided to make sure to use the secret technique of the lizards and Scorpio to create a shadow clone. As a result, she was able to gain absolute speed, so the protagonist could even keep up with her. Shanu Xiao noted that her real body and shadow clone almost merge into one. So if he wants to win, first you need to do something at this incredible speed. He thought that you could call the queen, but did not want to do this because he wanted to win this duel on his own. In the end, our hero decided that the attack was the best defense and used his element against the rival. It turned out that the killer was prepared for such a development of events, because it had wings that have absolute protection. Even the advisor herself did not expect this guy to fight on an equal footing with her killer, but she prepared for this outcome. At that moment, another orc climbed out of the ground who grabbed the protagonist by the legs. This was very angry with the princess, so she called the advisor the despicable and promised that she would definitely answer for this. Meanwhile, Shanu Xiao simply froze on the spot, not expecting such a setup, and his rival did not waste time and used this opportunity to finish the duel with her victory. Her weapon fell right into the head of the protagonist, and he felt the skull about to split, and the nerve endings were pulsed with pain, which even the blood of the zombies could not heal. Now the guy said goodbye to this world and hoped that someone else could save his neighbors. Shanu Xixiao remembered that the twins had a potential awakening of thinking, and he was able to absorb their wake-up techniques. In the end, he gathered the rest of his strength and activated the maximum awakening of thinking, feeling his brain literally burned with tension. The killer believed that this was impossible because her blade had to damage his brain, but the main character still remained alive. It turned out that the awakening of thinking and the highest genealogy of our hero create an absolute field of thinking. So now, he could reduce the intelligence of his rival. The girl easily succumbed to the power of Shanu Kusho, so now she did not attack him, but sang a stupid song. The absolute field of thinking that the main character managed to create reduces the intelligence of the enemy and makes us tell the truth. So now, the killer behaved inappropriately. The national advisor could not believe that the bat could behave like that, and the main character was happy that he still won. In the end, the orc approached the young man and declared him the champion of this tournament this year, which all the audience was delighted in the arena. The guards were also delighted that another capable general appeared in their orc tribe. The princess was so admired by our hero in line that now she wanted to marry him. The girl's words reached Shanu Xixiao a few seconds later, because he did not expect to hear such recognition from the girl. The princess with burning eyes said that she had never seen anyone as smart as Mr. Sun, and wanted to have children from such a talented man. He understood that he himself drove himself into this position, and was afraid of this endless rhythm of the birth of future generations. It was stored that was reported that after our hero gets married, he will have the right to enter the source from this in order to swim and evolve. In the end, Shanu Xixiao realized that he should only pretend that he agreed to marry the princess. And then, he will have the opportunity to come to the holy source in order to save people. He, holding hands with the princess, decided to lie that he was ready to immediately marry the princess. It turned out that the advisor had plans to ascend the throne, so she did not like such a development of events at all. She stated that the protagonist should pass premarital tests, so the next day, Shanu Xixiao changed his mind and prepared for this event. In the first test, a number of long, white, and delicate legs were placed in front of the main character. The advisor explained that if the guy can identify the princess among them, he will successfully pass this very simple test. The main character did not know how to complete this task, but the guards continued to support him. The advisor laughed with the young man and invited him to quickly recognize his defeat and return home. In the end, Shanu Xixiao decided to use his sense of smell, because it was trained by the spices of Huahao. From the first girl, the smell of the sea and all kinds of seafood poured straight into the face. So the guy concluded that this was not a princess. Our hero continued to analyze the rest of the smells, and only from the last participant caught a familiar smell. The young man was right, so he asked him to call him a master of tasting, and the advisor did not expect that the monkeys would be such a scent. The princess immediately jumped into her hands to her fiancé and stated that he was really her fate. Suddenly, the whole tribe of the orcs turned to the fact that there was a real human aircraft carrier in the sky. From there, Lin Sinka, Si Yao, and Mrs. Lin came down, who were happy that they were finally able to find Xisho. The girl said that the orcs continued to attack the city. During the battle, they got important intelligence, by which they were able to find this place. The princess was very angry when she saw that her groom was familiar with someone else and asked who these girls were to him. She was very angry, starting to suspect that the hero pretended to be close and mining information, and the guards in a panic noticed how her highness was furious and her skin began to darken. The girl ordered to send bats and sperm to attack the aircraft carrier, and the rest had to destroy all these people. The main character, the princess, wanted to grab alive and planned the rest of the people to simply sacrifice. Lin Sinka suggested that Shanu Xixiao quickly deal with the orcs and hurry to save the rest of the people. Si Yao, as a devoted personal maid, could not allow someone to dare to offend her lady. The princess did not stop because she wanted the main character to become her forever, and released a series of strokes in his direction. Due to the fact that the princess was jealous of her fiancé, her combat efficiency simply went off scale, and she almost reached the level of S, that is, the level of the king. At that moment, one of the subordinates ran to her highness and said that something had happened to the holy source, and an uninvited guest appeared there. Then the princess decided to postpone all her grievances and use with the help of the military because the situation was too emergency. The main character was surprised when he heard this news about the holy source, and now he was worried because he was not sure that all prisoners would be in order. He quickly ran into place and saw that near an uninvited guest was Professor Bai Mian. It turned out that the professor arrived in the territory of the orcs to steal the holy spring water. Mrs. Lin was already here, and instructing the weapon on Bai Miana, called him a spy of the organization K. The main character also did not stand aside and, threatening lightning, ordered Bai Miana to surrender without a fight. Suddenly, military mantis appeared. So Shanud Sishio immediately guessed that it was the professor that was associated with their appearance. Bai Mian said that he placed many praying eggs under the holy source. And after modification, their speed, strength, and endurance almost doubled. The girls decided that first you need to get rid of these pilgrims blocking the road, then destroy the professor's structure. The princess said that the insects were very smart and rapidly propagating, so she asked her allies to be neat. Mrs. Lin directly attacked Bai Miana because the military gave her an order to go to the professor alive. Unfortunately, the villain was already able to get more than part of the holy spring water and laughed that his rivals simply underestimated his power. In the end, the professor directed the stream towards his mantis to demonstrate what wonderful effects this holy water has. Everyone was shocked when they saw that after immersion in the holy spring water of the mantis and evolved, Bai Mian was able to find out that at the first stages of the evolution of the Mother of God will use group characteristics for collective fusion and evolution. And this was really wonderful for him. The mutated insect began to use egg bombs, but our team immediately used the barrier of the power of reason. Mrs. Lin understood that there were too many egg bombs, so she asked everyone to hide behind her. Shanu Xixiao tried to find the weaknesses of the opponent, because this giant mantis could produce 108 bombs in 10 seconds, which was too unsafe. Meanwhile, the girls planned to use the power of reason to throw the eggs back. At the time of the explosion of the Niye, he would take the opportunity and kill the Red Mother of God. They adhered to this plan, so the maid quickly jumped out to deliver the final blow. The girl did not expect at all that a huge claw would come out from smoke, so she flew right into it, not having time to react. The situation immediately intervened in Shanud Sisho, who pushed Sua Yao, but in the end he himself fell into the claws of the Mother of God. If the protagonist had not developed physical strength, he would simply cut it in half without body protection. In the end, the maid also was injured, so she asked the guy to be careful, because these claws were not only sharp, but also poisonous. The team was still not going to give up, and now they had to save the protagonist. Shanud Sisho was on top, so he warned his allies that Bai Mian was right behind them. The girls quickly reacted to a warning and noticed that there was something wrong with the villain. They thought that Bai Mian was not a man, because his paw suddenly appeared. The professor explained that our hero and maids will become good objects for experiments, so he was going to take them with him. Lin Sinka was not going to just let her lover in the paws of the villain, so she also grabbed the body of the Mother of God. The princess was very upset due to the fact that she stole all the holy spring water, so Mrs. Lin proposed concluding a temporary truce to deal with Bai Miana. The leader of the orcs agreed to form a coalition and return all the water, and asked to inform General Kingdom of Changu about this so that they quickly returned to reinforcements. Meanwhile, the Red Mother of God had already reached the territory of the pilgrims and landed in the ruin of the wasteland. Bai Mian asked our hero not to create problems, and then he promised to let the girls he took with him. Lin Shinki, in a panic, informed her lover that her maid was in too poor condition. The young man quickly began treatment, because if you do not cure the girl from the poison of the praying person in time, then she may die. Only a few millimeters remained to the girl's heart, and her 2 ribs were broken, so the injuries were too serious, threatened life. The main character was already a little able to manipulate cells, so at first he decided to stop bleeding, and then restore broken ribs. Although Si Yao was unconscious, she felt warm palms and the fact that her wounds slowly dragged on. Not realizing what was happening, she remembered that in childhood, her parents decided that she had too much a prying physique, and in the future she would not become strong awakened, so they threw her child right in the rain. It was then that she was found by Sinka, who saw a poor crying girl and wanted to take her to her home. Later, the Swao was accepted into the mansion of the line of Lin and made her personal maid miss, so she decided to protect this girl for the rest of her life. Now that the young lady has a lover to repay her for the salvation of life, the maid will work more eagerly to help the son in law practice. At that moment, she finally opened her eyes and saw a mistress crying with happiness in front of her. Siyu rushed into our hero in order to thank him for the salvation of his life. Lin Sinki concluded that it seemed to be an experimental hut of Bai Miana, who were on barren ground, so the military did not even receive any information about it. Meanwhile, Shanud Sisho applied promising vision and saw that there was a merger car that could unite 2 creatures, and the strongest of them absorbed the whole power of the weak. The professor just activated this car, and the level of level B was about to merge with the Medvetter, or Medvet level C. The device instantly extracted energy and absorbed it for transformation, so this machine was truly miracles. Bai Mian positively appreciated the result of the merger, because, as expected, the cheetah absorbed the power of the bear, which caused a value of 50,000 points of power. The main character told the girls everything he saw, and also added that the professor put experiments on himself to get the very claw. Lin Sinka decided that they needed to leave this place as soon as possible to pass the news to the military and request their support. So the guy quickly opened the door with the power of reason. As it turned out, Bai Mian put his guard, who in no case would allow our heroes to escape. The young man was shocked when he saw such a strange creature, and asked if she was a professor's accomplice. The insect showed as the supreme queen of the Bogomolov clan and emphasized that it was Bai Mian who helped them decorate the water from the holy source. In the end, Shanutsisho decided to independently deal with the rival, and the girls asked to guess the moment in order to successfully escape. The praying person admired the fact that the guy was ready to sacrifice his life for the sake of the girl. So she wanted him to become her food tonight. She released some kind of liquid into our hero, and he did not even know how to answer such a strange compliment. The young man did not appreciate the queen's behavior because she simply set him up, because of which he was very scared and lost his balance due to the slippery floor. The mantis came closer to him and said that she had already gobbled up 999 men, and our hero had to be the last to be able to reach the second stage of evolution and kill Bai Miana. Before her death, she decided to kiss her victim on the lips, but the main character did not appreciate this at all. After that, the queen also reported that in her language there is a neuropoly poison, so Shanutsisho will soon die from the maximum pleasure and fun. As a result, the pilgrimage herself was poisoned, because somehow it turned out that our hero was more poisonous. It turned out that she was so powerful that she bit the guy at the lip, but he still could not understand why she herself was poisoned and fell in about. Lin Sinka was in a state of rage, because of which her combat effectiveness took off to heaven. So she wanted to deal with the queen, who dared to offend her lover. The girl simply began to kick the pilgrimage with all his might, and the main character did not expect at all that her anger would be so terrifying. But, unfortunately, their adventures did not finish on this, because Bai Mian was waiting for them further. The professor considered it amazing that Shanutsisho turned out to be Omnipotent awakened, so he would like to use a guy to merge and become the strongest creature on the planet. Our hero wanted to save his allies, so he asked the villain to let them go, promising that he would do anything for this. Bai Mian simply laughed from this touching scene of love and said that the meeting of Chaxiao with Lin Sinka was his cunning plan from the very beginning. In fact, he had long known about our hero and his parents, and also accidentally learned the secret of Lin's family about their ability to joint awakening. So he built a plan of their meeting by bricks. Shanutsisho for a long time could not get closer to the girl, which greatly disappointed the professor, so he sent Duke to sacrifice the guy. But unexpectedly, Miss Lin came to the aid of his lover. That is why it would not be an exaggeration to say that the villain was a parent who raised the protagonist. And now, he really has turned into an omnipotent awakened. Our hero could no longer restrain himself, so he decided to use the rapid technique, hated by all the men that he used during the orcs tournament. Shanutsisho saw that his technique could not even hurt his opponent, although he was sure that this technique could not let him down. It turned out that Bai Mian had long known about this technique, so he specially merged with a lizard and a worm to turn into hermaphrodite. At this moment, the professor used the feminization of the body and also made his hands tentacles. The main character was shocked by such a turn of events and believed that this was already complete nonsense. At this moment, Lin Sinka, who used the swords of the mind of reason, intervened in the situation and recommended never to underestimate it. The young man praised her, because her swords were able to easily pierce the heart of their opponent. Bai Mian, calmly continuing to stand on his feet, praised Sinka for such speed and said that lizards and worms, although they have a low level of development, but also have a strong ability to regenerate. The crazy genius also added that there were 8 hearts in his body, so he was almost immortal, which made him an incredibly complex opponent. Shanutsisho understood that the rival speed is comparable to the speed of the zombie restoration, so he needed to find a way to destroy all 8 hearts at the same time. In the end, he asked the girl to come up with a way to restrain Bai Miana at least 10 seconds, and said that he had learned a new secret technique during the previous merger. Lin Sinka also switched to a new level of mind strength, so I tried to use the complete control of this technique. The professor decided that it was a sandstorm, and the hero did not expect that his lover could control the wind and sand by the power of the mind, creating a cage to restrain the enemy. Then the girl asked Shanu Tsisho to start her secret technique, but the villain was still confident in his abilities because now he was immortal. Si Yao, who had been resting aside all this time, could not understand why the guy sharply grabbed her in his arms. He explained that she needed an amplifier for an amplifier to destroy all the hearts at a time. Together, they used a combined attack and powerfully shot right in all the hearts of the villain. Bai Mian did not expect at all that the enemy would be able to destroy all his lives so easy. Lin Sinka was going to inform the commander of their locations, not noticing that the professor continued to move and was about to inject himself some kind of injection. The villain was able to successfully restore his health. The protagonist now realized that their opponent kept Ace in his sleeve all this time. Now he has turned into a ferocious beast. Because this potion helps to overcome the boundaries of human capabilities and force the body to evolve to the second stage. The young man understood that the physical forces of Sinki were almost exhausted, so he asked her to relax along, promising to deal with their enemy. The main character understood that the situation was critical, so he asked to come to his beloved and most beautiful queen. Shanu Zixiao knew that she was in the second stage of evolution, so she could help get rid of this stinking fox. Suddenly, the queen irritatedly stated that she was not going to fulfill this request. Having taken the guy in his arms, she explained that this fox had a disgusting smell, so she did not want to approach her too close and asked the protagonist to cope with this opponent himself. Bai Mian could not even assume that our hero would conclude a contract with the king of animals, but was not afraid of such reinforcement. The queen promised to strengthen the body of Shanu Tsisho to destroy the heart of the fox, but he was still afraid because the opponent surrounded the fox with a temperature of about 10,000 degrees. She stated that all this did not matter, so with all her might she threw the protagonist towards the enemy. The professor guessed that it was just a clone of the king of animals, so he was sure that the fire of a foxtail would simply burn the guy. Meanwhile, instead of burning, the body of our hero felt cool and could easily get to Bai Mian. Thus, the young man was able to easily strike with all his strength and critically damage the heart of his opponent. Then the beautiful kitsune unexpectedly flew out of the body of this ferocious beast. The girl was glad that the professor was finally dead and she could live freely. But the main character was not going to let her go so easily and wanted to ask a few questions. Shanu Tsisho understood that this fox for a long time was in a merger with Bai Mian, so her memories should have been preserved. He suggested that the kiss could launch a connection with the girl's mind, so now he wanted to look into her remembrance. The memories transferred our hero to the northern border, where the borders of Huahao and Vanillin met, which means that it was here that the organization of K. Then he saw the captured 2 experimental spies, which were his parents. Shanu Tsisho did not notice at all that all the girls looked at him with rage in their eyes, because he tried to remember every detail from these memories. Siyao and Lin Sinka wanted to knock out all the foolishly from the groom, due to the fact that he had so eagerly attacked this monster girl. The poet had to explain his act. After the desperate explanation of the guy Linka, nevertheless, she accepted everything and decided not to worry that the queen had saved the life of her lover. Meanwhile, the queen said that she allows the main character to start other girls on the condition that he should always remember that she was the eldest among them. But Seo did not agree with such conditions. Then, the military girl suggested finding out this next time with the help of power, and disappeared. And Shanu Xiao explained that all these events should remain secret. In the end, all the orcs were saved. The princess was happy that brother Ukon still safely coped with his task. The queen of the animals was just not against getting to know the savage, who was deceiving her daughter to get married, and noticed that he was weak, like a spray of beans, so she wanted to treat him a little. The woman caused a giant plant in anger due to the destruction of the holy source by the people given by our hero. But he just came to restore the source. The queen immediately calmed down when she heard that the young man had a way to restore the sacred source. But even Mrs. Lin could not guess how to do it. Everyone immediately went to the dried-up holy source to look at the plan of the protagonist. Shanu Xiao said that, according to his observations, the orcs can really be strengthened without relying on the holy source. But the guard believed that it was complete nonsense. The guy asked to carefully observe his actions and called on the zipper, which he sent directly to the ground. After a second, crystals appeared on the site of the source, and the main character explained that under him many energy ores were hidden, which were the main reason for the evolution of the orcs. The queen really felt great energy from this ore, so now she agreed that our hero had abilities. The princess was very happy that brother Ukon was so talented, and now fell in love with him more and more. So she begged her mother to leave him in the tribe and allow her to marry her. Lin Sinka immediately pulled her lover and asked not to pester him, because they were familiar from childhood and were a real couple. Meanwhile, Mrs. Lin noted that Shanud Sisho has the courage to take responsibility for himself and is completely awakened, therefore, united with Shinki. He will strengthen the line as the strongest in Hu Hao. In turn, the queen thought that this guy not only saved so many orcs, but also found an ore of evolutionary energy, and also liked her daughter. In the end, both women asked the protagonist will engage in their daughter, so the war for the groom has now officially began. Shanud Xixiao did not expect such a development of events, so now he did not understand how to get out of this situation, because he was afraid that they would not come out of here alive if he refuses the Queen of Animals. Mrs. Lin was generous and cunning, so she promised half the Lin Group shares and 10 million for expenses every month for our hero. The Queen, in turn, stated that she would put at the disposal of the groom of all the girls of the tribe and even herself. In the end, the main character said that he would not be a son-in-law until his potential value exceed 100, and only then he can think about such a significant event. Lin Sinka was happy that her mother finally recognized her bride, so she would be doubly happy with Sisho when she returned home. At the same time, the princess was sure that she was a favorite and was going to remove her rival from the path. At that moment, the guard noticed that the national advisor was trying to escape under the noise, because she realized that she would receive a punishment for betraying the orcs tribe. The queen said that the princess had not yet reached marriage, so until that time she orders the advisor to serve our hero by faith and truth. Now the curse of life and death was imposed on the traitor. Therefore, if she dares to betray the protagonist, she will be killed by 10,000 swords. In addition, now she was a wolf cub, which was delighted by Shanud Sisho, because she was not opposed to having her as a domestic animal. Meanwhile, the commander received news from the military who wanted the team to return and help eliminate damage in the city after they grabbed Bai Miana. At that moment, the queen said that for the help of their tribe, she would free all the prisoners in a white tower. Then, Shanud Xixiao said goodbye to the orcs, and his new pet was very angry, so he bit his owner and wanted to eat him upon arrival home. At the entrance to the city of Mrs. Lin said goodbye to our heroes, because she needed to check the repair work in the city. The main character has been so tired over the past few days that now he just wanted to return to the hostel in order to get enough sleep in bed. In the room, he was waiting for the twin sisters, who were dressed in the costumes of the maids, and now welcomed their master. Si Yao said that Miss was kind and helped the sisters enter the academy, modernizing the hostel specifically for them. One of the girls said that from today they will be responsible for cleaning the hostel. They also promised to take care of the puppy that the owner brought. The next day, Zhang Jushui and Zhang Ruya, who were transferred from slums, presented the next day in the academy in front of the whole class. The teacher had already heard that, according to the study, a week ago, the potential of the twins was only 10, but they say that after close contact with the chanced Sisho, he immediately exceeded 60. Now the woman also planned to use the protagonist to improve her, so she was sure that the guy now could not escape from her. The young man himself suddenly felt that he was sharply cold. His heart was numb. In the end, the teacher decided to get down to business and said that the political circles of the Alliance are holding an annual protection of the Academy, in which students of the 4 largest countries will take part. The students were sure that this year, the Academy would again speak like never, but also had hope for Shanu Kusho. Meanwhile, the guy, having heard this news, remembered that he had already heard about it on TV. To survive in the future, the 4 largest countries united and formed a political alliance to fight the mutated animals. These were Ultuan, Vanolan, Rumi, and Huahao. 4 countries annually hold competitions in the protection of the Academy in order to choose the strongest awakened from each side to award them military ranks. However, each time it is the Ultuan of the Kama. And moreover, our hero heard that the abilities of the awakening at their academy are horrified. Suddenly, Shanud Xixiao recalled that the fox merged with Bai Miana in his memoirs, saw the ruins of Vanillin, where the underground laboratory of the organization K. Time for a break. The guy decided to ask Sinke why Huahao is at the very bottom of the competition every time. The girl said that due to the location, the degree of mutation of people varies from the country to the country. And this is especially true for Olduan, because the mutated energy rays were in the center of their country. Si Yao asked her mistress not to worry, because Shanu Tsishio was so strong that it could definitely win the battle for Huahao. Our heroes sharply heard someone next to them quarreled with the guests of the Huahao Academy. Lin Sinka said that this time their academy is the owner of the youth championship, so foreign students began to arrive at them. In the end, the main character could not stand it and went to deal with two foreign healthy women who dared to pester a defenseless girl. The guys explained that they were unhappy that this girl did not want to provide them with a tennis court. Although this was prohibited by the rules of the academy itself, Shanu Tsishio immediately rushed to fight, but the girl tried to stop him, because there is a rule in the combat academy, according to which he would be excluded if a fight takes place. Then our hero calmed down and invited foreigners to play in a pair tennis match for this court. The healthy men were surprised when they heard that some Huahao Hulyak decided to challenge them. So they added that the loser would have to undress and crawl on the site on all fours. The students immediately gathered to stare at this duel when they heard that someone from Huahao had challenged Olduan. The robot explained that in this game, it was he who will be a judge, and announced that the game is beginning. Gemini appeared immediately, as they heard a noise, and now they were sick for the protagonist. The student from Olduan knew that the first presenter almost always wins, so he strengthened the limbs for his success. Lin Sinka used the power of reason to repel the attack, and stated that foreigners still grow and grow to their level. These were only flowers, so now the team of rivals decided to use a powerful tornado for the next attack. The protagonist was not confused and subjugated the wind to use the impulse and easily beat off the ball. As a result, the robot announced that Huahao had earned a point because the rivals could not recapture this blow. Suddenly, foreigners felt terrifying oppression, because Shanu Tsishio had a terrifying murderous aura. The team of Olduan understood that it was not easy to cope with this guy. So for a start, they decided to deal with the girl and used the steep feed with an element of the fiery element. Lin Sinka, without trembling, gathered her strength and decided to independently repel this powerful attack. In the end, she could not cope with the fire, because of which her clothes simply caught fire. Then the robot announced that the Ultuan was earning a point. And Si Yao explained that it was not a combat uniform, so it was easily ignited, and suggested Miss to leave the court and change clothes. Our hero understood that the opponent did this intentionally, because the tennis and the ball caught fire during a quick coach with air. Then he changed his trajectory to get directly into the girl. Shanu Tsishio said that he did not need a break, because he was going to figure out alone with his rivals. He was very angry that the guys dared to mock his girlfriend, so she used a zipper for the next presentation to put them in place. Foreigners did not expect that their opponent would have a dual commas and could not recapture the legendary lightning, fast feed with external rotation. At that moment, our hero noticed that when the tennis ball touched the racket, it seemed to him that the ball froze in the air for a second, as in slow off-shooting. He did not lose time and used the technique of earthquakes of the heavenly sphere to accurately teach guests from Olduan. Foreigners were very scared when they realized that their opponent was awakened with the triple system and precisely had a level above them. As a result, Shanu Tsishio simply crushed his rivals of this huge earthen sphere and thus could win. The young man said that the guests really managed to get him out, so he wanted them to know that Huahao should not be underestimated. Now, all the students of the academy were happy to watch how guests from Olduan fulfilled their shameful punishment after the loss. Also, from the side, this fight was watched by representatives of other countries who wanted to arrange a warm reception for a beginner with a triple system. Meanwhile, Lin Sinka was still in the hostel that the players of different countries gathered on the playground, so she was about to go there. One of the sisters suggested taking their pet with them to take care of her, because otherwise she would just die of hunger. Now the whole team in a good mood went to open competitions between 4 countries. There was a huge ship on the site, around which students gathered from all countries. The main character felt that the atmosphere was too tense because everyone looked at him after their battle with the students of Olduan. The representative of Vanillin did not consider our team strong, because their indicators were low, and considered them just a bunch of newcomers. At the same time, the representative of Ryumi believed that to judge people by appearance, the same as measuring the sea area, standing on the shore, so she simply looked forward to meeting with representatives of Huahao. The representative of Olduan was sure that none of these 3 countries could compete with him and was simply garbage. At that moment, the teacher asked everyone to get together so that they would sit in a battleship and finally go to the place of competition. The place he needed was in the middle of the desert and looked quite large, scale from the height of a bird flight. The world outside the basic city is so huge, but unfortunately, most of it is already unsuitable for living people. The main character wanted to become stronger in order to lead everyone and return the land that once belonged to humanity. After a few seconds, they arrived at the place and were now surprised that the competitions would be held in some very high tower. The teacher ordered everyone to shut up and said that there were 100 floors in the Glory Tower. So each person will be randomly appointed into a separate room. The one who can successfully climb to the top is waiting for a personal duel. And he will also be awarded the championship medal, will receive freedom of movement in 4 countries, also criminal immunity. The twins were nervous because they only recently entered the academy, and they had already assigned such responsibility. Our hero was reassured by Zhang Zhushu and Zhang Ruya, because he knew that both of them had a potential value of 60, so they were sure to fight good results. Then all participants were announced that they should prepare, because the 27th Championship of Glory among young people was now open. All students stopped in front of the portal, which sent them to different rooms randomly. Lin Sinka asked her lover to give up this competition in full in order to bring the victory to their country. The guy went to the portal and got into the room on the ground floor, on which he was given 10 minutes. There, he was met by such a huge mutated beast that our hero could not understand that he was eating, that he would smash him so much. But Shanu Xixiao already had a proven secret technique, so he simply cut the most painful place of the monster and easily passed the first test. The system reported that the main character passed the first level and received 2 stars for it, so now he could go to the next floor. On the first 9 floors, in fact, all the animals were killed from one blow, so it was even a little boring. Shanu Xixiao did not stop and moved with interest to the 10th floor to look at his next opponent. Surprisingly, Lin Sinka and the representative of the country Ryumi were waiting for him there. It turned out that they were opponents of our hero, that the girl did not like very much, but at the same time she could not violate the rules of the tournament. The ally of the young man did not look like some strong participant in the competition, but invited him to unite. The main character could not believe that this idiot would really be his teammate in this battle. He could not even assume that the enemy on the 10th floor would be a Shinki. And besides, this was his first battle with the representative of the country Ryumi, about which he did not know anything. The girl decided to take advantage of their proximity to our hero to block him, and her ally planned to show all the power of the noble family of Ryumi. Then the robot announced that on the 10th floor the blue side was fighting red, and the essence of the competition is to tear off the badge with the name. And the winner is that he will tear off more than the badge. Beiji with the name were automatically generated for both teams and appeared on the backs of the participants. The main character believed that these were very stupid rules, because his fat ally was just staring at beautiful girls and could not do anything. The blue team of the girls was not going to stop, so she rushed forward to pick up the badges from their rivals. Shanu Xixiao understood that he could not hope for another guy, so he was going to fight alone against 2 rivals. Suddenly, Nolstiak attacked our hero, because he did not want to give him power against his sister. The guy with all his might tried to throw a stupid guy away from himself, but he was not going to retreat. All the same, he was able to dodge the opponent's attack and was now disappointed with the female army Ryumi, which should have magical sciences. But he did not see anything like this. The girl said that this was not the end, because deadly fangs are usually hidden behind female beauty, and she decided to show her unique secret method. She was surprised when she saw that this was a spice mixed with poison. Did not work on the main character. The representative of Ryumi decided not to worry about it and take Bajik from her other opponent. Meanwhile, Lin Sinka, apologizing, attacked the protagonist and was about to take his badge. Shanu Xixiao decided not to give up his beloved and hit the girl in response. Then, the robot brought warnings to the red team for cruelty to the girls. But our hero could not understand what was the matter, because he did not even use physical strength. Representative Ryumi said that in any case she knows how to handle the rules and female natural advantages, so she came up with a new plan for how to deceive Shanu Xixiao. The guy could not understand what his rival did, turning his back, so he decided to use promising vision. She glued her badge to the most secret place on her brow, so now it is impossible to tear him off. If our hero wants to do something rude, she will be disqualified. Lin Sinka was sure that although Xixiao was awakened with all his abilities, but still he could not defeat both of them. At this moment, the main character noticed that the power of his eyes improved, so now he can see some smooth lines on the bodies of his rivals. Whatever it is, the judge still does not see them, so the guy could just cut them. It turned out that the threads wrapped around girls symbolized the flow of time, so now everything around us froze. It is not surprising that earlier, when the protagonist played tennis, the tennis ball inexplicably froze in the air for a while. Shanut Xixiao previously read about this in educational materials, but did not know how time would stop, so he decided to find a badge as soon as possible. In the end, the guy nevertheless found a badge with the inscription of the noblewoman and earned 1 point for himself. He concluded that he could stop the time for only 5 seconds, so this ability must still be improved. The representative of Ryumi immediately felt that our hero did something with her and still took it to Beigig. At the same time, Shanut Xixiao did not notice at all that Lin Sinka was behind him and easily was able to pick up badge. Our hero noticed that the girl's power of the girl improved so quickly that now she could almost instantly teleport. So she definitely deserved to be his woman. The robot announced the end of the first day of the competition, and Shanut Xixiao, noticing something suspicious in this competition, decided to take advantage of the night to conduct his own investigation. The 10th level was much more tiring than the first 9 levels, so our hero was a little tired. Suddenly, he saw a figure on the roof in the southwest corner, which looked too familiar. The young man took advantage of the promising vision and saw that it was a familiar wolf orc. Shanut Xixiao could not even assume that the she-wolf forgot on the main building of the delegation of Ulduan. The girl was worried due to the fact that the roof was too slippery, so she could not resist for a long time and simply fall, because of which she would be very easily discovered. Meanwhile, the students really heard that there was someone outside, so they prepared weapons and decided to see what was happening there. The orc girl did not at all expect that someone would come to her, and did not have time to react when someone closed her mouth with her hand. It turned out that this was just the main character who decided to pick up his friend. Pupils from Ulduan have already taken to the street to teach the one who dared to listen to their conversations. The guy did not notice any hesitation of awakened power, so he suggested that it was just a cat. Meanwhile, the main character tried to reassure the she-wolf used the bracelet of invisibility so that they would not be noticed. In the end, the foreigners returned home, and Shanut Xixiao tried to fly as quickly as he could. Shanut Xixiao continued to keep his friend on his shoulders and asked why she went to the enemy area, because where she could be killed with easily. He also thought about the fact that Vanolin's representatives were with Ulduan. So this became an occasion to suspect that they thought something. Shanut Xixiao associated this with the fact that, after the battle with Sinka, he noticed that there were problems with the mechanism of selection of players. So he asked the she-wolf whether she could eavesdrop on anything. The girl was not going to obey the protagonist. So then he remembered the remote control that the queen gave him before leaving to control the wolf. Lin Sinka began to worry, believing that this rude act was too vile and unworthy. Our hero was already aware that first we need to cause physical pain of naughty animals to show their authority. The she-wolf had too sensitive skin to lightning, so she would not have stood such a punishment for a long time. Further, he planned to give mental comfort in a timely manner to the she-wolf so that she would feel love and care, activating the mental connection. Now the memory connection was successfully completed, so the protagonist could easily see what happened an hour ago. The she-wolf slipped out of the hostel when everyone went to the tower to participate in the competition, and wanted to escape from this hole, reminded that the boundaries of the Glory Tower were already blocked by technological method. When she wanted to return to the hostel, she accidentally got into the recreation area of Ulduan, so she hid on the roof so that she would not be found. There, the she-wolf overheard the conversation that everything was adjusted, so the system was supposed to group all those who have low combat power so that they fought against these two participants from Ulduan and Vanillin. The girl who created all this understood that their actions could arouse suspicions of large clans, so she asked the allies to get more qualifications for entering the ruins. Now, Shan Xixiao knew that Ultuan and Vanillin conspired to use the championship to weaken 2 other countries, and the internal champion was from a noble family, which explained his weak team during the test. At that moment, Lin Sinka ran into the room, who in a panic reported that the first death occurred at the championship, when the girl from Ryumi rose to the 11th level and lost, although this is not in the rules. Shanut Xixiao now understood that the championship was turning into a royal battle, and told the girl that they were under the control of the barrier, who found the she-wolf when she tried to escape. Then someone turned to young talents from 4 countries, guessing that everyone noticed that there was something abnormal in this tower, and said that the organization revised the work procedure of this building. Lin Sinka decided to contact the military in order to immediately stop the championship. But unfortunately, the walkie-talkie did not work. The guy understood that it was useless, because the organization K should be disconnected by external sources of the signal, and Zinke only now noticed that he was quite wiser. Meanwhile, the results of the first day were announced by which the Hua Hao team, as always, was in the last place. And the conspiracy of the Ultuan and Vanillin was a leader with a large margin. The girl began to worry, because she concluded that the players who want to leave the championship would certainly be destroyed. So they had no way out and had to go to the end. Si Yao said that they united with the sisters and all 10 floors passed in one breath, but unfortunately, on the 11th test, they were defeated. Due to errors, the number of stars in their 3 was now reduced to 5. So the girl in tears began to apologize to Miss Lin. Lin Sinka reassured her maid, because this time the enemy was very strong, and there are also problems with the mechanism of the youth championship. She asked the protagonist to heal the sisters, and he was just thinking that he needed to come up with a thorough plan so as not to lose all the stars. The next morning, Zhang Zhuxue and Zhang Ruya went with a she-wolf to a test to avenge their shame and win the stars for Hu Hao. Teleportation began, so Lin Sinka asked our hero to be careful, because the stars will be written off from the 11th floor. On the new floor of Shanu Xiao, met with the mutated beast of the level B, but he was not afraid and wanted to check how his physical strength improved. After 15 minutes, the guy had already risen to the 19th floor and now wondered if this tournament of random combinations was held only every 10 floors. On the 20th, the main character unexpectedly met with the teacher and other participants with Hu Hao. The woman said that she was trapped behind the barrier before leaving the competition, and all who survived, but due to fines had unambiguous star numbers, were also teleported to this place. The organizers announced that from the 20th to the 50th floor rooms were opened, forming a sealed space where supplies are located, and participants should fight for survival for 3 days. The teacher immediately invited her students to find a place where you could hide, and asked everyone to be careful with enemy soldiers who arranged ambush everywhere. A loud explosion thundered, and all students were ordered to lie down, because someone is 1,000 meters from them and attacks from the southeast. As it turned out, it was a representative of Vanillin, who started all these changes in the competition. The girl used improvement of weapons to destroy her rivals without problems and pick up all supplies. Lin Sinka used a powerful shield of reason, and the main character helped her because Vanillin's power was too great. The guy asked his allies not to rush into battle, because the most important thing was now to protect the strength to search for supplies. Otherwise, they could not survive the night. So it was necessary to find a way to quickly get out of here. The teacher immediately took control of the situation and ordered everyone awakened with the elements of fire to concentrate her firepower in order to cope with opponents. In turn, the Vanillin team considered it ridiculous that the participants from Hua Hao wanted to fool them with such a trifling stunt. It turned out that the teacher did this in order to use the water element and escape, hiding behind the fog. Now the enemy has not seen anything, so our whole team could climb onto the wolf without problems to escape from here. The representative of Vanillin was still sure that Hua Hao was just a lamb who fell into the mouth of a tiger, and sooner or later they would burn them anyway. The protagonist praised the she-wolf for helping them so much and promised to get chicken legs when they returned home. And the rest asked where he had such a huge dog. The guy lied that it was just a miserable homeless puppy, which he met on the street, because of which the she-wolf began to bark loudly, because she did not agree with such a story. Lin Sinka said that the reserves found today are limited, and all the team members will still remain here and will guard the perimeter of the security barrier at night, which he had just set. Then, a representative of the country Ryumi came out to them, who asked her rivals to wait a bit. She was unarmed and introduced herself to the team, saying that she wanted to negotiate with them. Lin Sinka went to a meeting a girl named Mi Dazi, who said that the Organization K changed the procedures in the tower, which is why people could die if the number of their stars decreases to 0. In addition, 2 other countries attacked them all the time and stole all their reserves. The main character immediately realized that this girl belonged to a noble family from the kingdom of Rumi, and asked if they had any reason to conclude an alliance with Hu Hao. That time, the robot judge reported that the Hua Hao team gathered only 7 boxes, so now 10 stars will be removed from them from each participant. Shanu Xiao understood that if on the first day 10 stars were removed, then no one would remain at such a pace in the group, because many participants in the number of stars had a definite number. Xiao said that today's entrance to the tower was not so smooth, so she received only 11 stars, and the sisters were afraid even more because they had 7 and 8 points each. Then the system said that the process of calculation in the Tower of Fame would soon begin, which is why everyone had a panic, because they thought that they would end. At this moment, the main character said that he announces an alliance with Ryumi, So he decided to apply for the distribution of the total number of stars collected by both sides. The robot rejected this application because it was against the rules. But then Midazi intervened, who tried to convince him, arguing that there should be at least some intrigue in the competition. She understood that by uniting the stars of the two countries and dividing them equally, she would guarantee that each participant would definitely have more than 10 stars and everyone could survive. In the end, the robot stated that the alliance was nevertheless formed, so the number of those who died tonight was 0. Suddenly, Midazi grabbed our hero by the clothes and reported that she wanted to talk with the strongest in Huahao. Lin Sinka wanted to go with her lover, but the teacher stopped her, recalling that first, she needed to summarize the intelligence and discuss the strategy for the next 2 days. Shanu Tsisio independently went to a tent with technological sound and a light, resistant barrier, which had a high degree of disguise and was an important scientific support for survival in the wild. In the end, the girl suggested distributing a special fruit to everyone, a red date that temporarily relieves fear and increases determination in order to raise the fighting spirit and rally people to fight the enemy. Shanu Tsisio believed that what the representative of Ryumi said, it makes sense, but do not relax, because the dates could be poisonous. In fact, Midazi just found out the information that the main character was awakened with the triple system, so she wanted to get his genes in order to improve the abilities of the Ryumi female army. As a result, the young man realized that this date was not poisonous, but he had a strange smell, because of which his whole body was burning. At the same time, Midazi turned on the maximum charm to immediately get down to business. It turned out that behind the tent was just a she-wolf, who from the very beginning guessed that this girl had an unkind intention. And yet, she agreed to be silent about what she saw. As a result, the owner completed the training task and unlocked the genetic connection of a unique skill that activates with fingers with the opposite sex. In the early morning of the next day, all the team members woke up and felt a strong lack of energy due to the fact that they were poorly sleeping and ate a little. At that moment, Shanu Tsisio said that 2 kilometers ahead were giant mutated animals, so he invited everyone to relax. And he was going to go hunting. Midazi joined the guy because she wanted to check whether her abilities improved. But Lin Sinka immediately joined them, who did not want to let her beloved himself. The girl decided to use the berserker regime against animals because the poisonous aroma would destroy the texture of their meat. She used the ice silver thread, and the main character I noticed that a hidden weapon steel wire was attached to the ice, which could quietly kill any enemy. Meanwhile, Lin Sinka was just running away because yesterday she could not restore her energy in time, which was due to which she weakened a little. Then, the protagonist decided to try a genetic connection right now and took the girl by the hand. Now the owner was connected to a suitable DNA of the opposite sex, and the skill of the merger was activated. The genetic connection consists in extracting genes and from the body of the opposite sex, and combining them with a part of the owner, turning their powerful weapons which can be used in battle. Having gained new forces, the protagonist immediately rushed into battle to test his new weapons. Now Shanu Tsisio felt that this skill is really good and just in use, so he could also fight such weapons to the future. Now the team wanted to go to the base, but they were met by participants from Ulduan, who ordered our heroes to give all their catch. The Red Army Ryumi, which certainly did not allow them to take their food, was immediately obsessed with the conflict. In turn, the guys were confident in their abilities, because they controlled advanced technologies, as a result of which the Huahao technology definitely lagged behind. And the tactics of fighting Ryumi have long been outdated. Midazi instantly used the shield. But the hero still knew that while the physical forces of Sinka were depleted, they had to retreat to the camp and discuss further actions with the rest. They came running to them by a Yao, who was worried about the fact that her lady and Chan Xixiao were returning for a long time, because of the teacher sent her to find out why they were delayed. The main character understood that in a joint battle, Sinka just spent too much energy, so he hid her under the barrier of security so that she could relax. Then he decided to ask Xiao to wait for the same combined skill to use it together. The guy also noticed that a real combined skill can be activated, intertwining fingers in a certain way, so the girl immediately felt how she was sucked into the body of Shan Tishao. After a few seconds, the genetic connection was successful, so our hero received a powerful weapon, a magnificent laser gun. Now Shan Tishao could use frantic shooting, which allowed him to do as much as 10 shots per second. The team of Ulduan could not resist such a number of bullets and could not understand when the Huahao Techno managed to develop to such a high level. Xiao spent all the energy from her body, so she immediately fell to the ground when they divided with our hero. Midazi understood that they had a membrane here, so she offered to return as soon as possible and restore the forces of their entire team. The twins were delighted when they saw that the line of Shinke and Shanu Xiao returned, and also with food. So now they could be fully eaten. The protagonist considered himself the best cook in the slums, so he asked to leave everything cooking on him. Half an hour later, Shanu Xiao had already finished cooking the secret barbecue hua hao, which looked very appetizing and had an incredible aroma. My Dazi admired the elastic and dry meat, crispy outside and delicate inside, which stimulated taste recipes, a rich soup spread in the mouth. He admired his culinary skills, so he asked everyone to call him the god of cooking hu hao. They ate with Sinka alone, who planned to go in search of supplies in order to prevent Ri subtracting the stars tonight. And our hero was sure that with the help of Ryumi, they would be able to achieve victory. After lunch, the teacher said that half of the team members would remain in the camp to prevent robbery, and the other half would go to collect supplies with them. After 9 hours of searches, the team had absolutely zero progress because they could not find any supplies. Then the robot said that all supplies for today are collected from each member of the team that did not collect a sufficient number of boxes. 30 stars will be removed. Now the teacher was sure that they would all die, so she was going to hide and survive until the barrier would take off, and then quietly leave this place in order to continue the genealogy Qixiao. Meanwhile, other countries rejoiced that their rivals would die and the right victory will come for them. Then the girl raised her head to look at the statistics and suddenly saw that they had 0 boxes. The system said that the destruction program in the tower is launched right now, and Vanillin participants who have gained less than 30 stars will be killed. It turned out that all this was set up by her ally, who replaced Vanillin's supplies with supplies, so now they had ordinary garbage. Meanwhile, the Ryumi and Hua Hao team probably rejoiced that one box had taken from somewhere and could not understand why their rivals were at the very bottom. It turned out that Midazi all this time hid that they were still able to find at least some supplies. Hattori Hanzo has long known about the plan of Ulduan to kill 3 hares with 1 shot, so she was able to track the place where supplies were brought without problems. The robot said that now the passage to the 51st floor is open, where there were doors of life and death, although the representative of Ulduan planned that they would be the only ones who would pass the previous level. The system gave players a choice between the gates of life and the gates of death, where they were waiting for the corresponding fate. Our hero noted that special awakening materials are used in these walls, so they cannot break through the wall and can only choose between life and death. Meanwhile, the participants from Ulduan began to ask their leader which door should open, but he had already come up with some kind of plan. For this guy, people were just a bargaining coin, so he decided to throw his ally forward so that he independently went and checked that he was behind the doors. It turned out that the victim was on the door of death, so it just died. Everyone considered it cruel that the leader sacrifices the players from his own country to understand where the door was. The guy was so distraught that he said that he had many cartridges, so everyone who does not go to check the doors on his order will be shot in place. The girls watched with fear how he mercilessly choosing a victim from his own comrades throws them into different doors. As a result, the leader of the team of Ulduan was still able to open the doors of life at the cost of 5 dead comrades. Further, the system updated all the doors and said that the participants have another 30 seconds to make their choice, because otherwise they will be killed by the program. The warrior girls immediately went forward, because they were ready to die Ryumi for their country. Shanu Tsushio analyzed that all these doors are equipped with protective codes that cannot be deciphered in a short period of time, so they can only go at random. In the end, the guy all who came to the head of the head, so he asked all the allies to take up the handles of the doors and about 3 at the same time open them, who could not understand what the protagonist was talking about, and he explained that he had the opportunity to temporarily stop the time that he could at least somehow help in this situation. Then everyone quickly dispersed along their door and now waited for the teams from Shanu Tsushio, so that everything exactly succeeds. The young man used her vision to see the threads of time, and instantly gave the command to open the doors. He immediately used the art of slowing down and cut all the gold threads around. Our hero began to analyze all the doors and saw that a huge amount of radiation left the first door, so it was urgent to close it. Outside the door that Midazi chose, mines were placed everywhere, so it was very lucky that it did not open completely. In the end, the guy found that it was the door of Lin Sinka was safe. Over the past 5 seconds, all participants had to run to the desired door, and the main character himself promised to take care of all the consequences. Shanut Sisho even decided to save the latter representative of Vanolin, although she was to blame for many troubles of this competition. He quickly grabbed the girl in his arms and jumped into the right door at the last moment, when an explosion was already thundering behind him. Still, they were able to escape, but the girl could not understand why our hero saved her, because they were enemies all this time. Shanut Sisho gently untied the girl and explained that he was not a representative of Ulduan, so he could not calmly watch how others die, despite all the differences. Previously, the girl thought that there were only cowards in Huahao, but did not expect that this person would be so brave and bold to save her, despite the past. So she would not even mind die directly on his hands. Then the system announced that the new round would begin after 20 seconds, so the main character asked his team to prepare for him. The number of survivors in the team of Ulduan was only 12 people, but the worthless leader continued to say that the strongest wins. At the same time, absolutely all the participants survived the Ryumi, Huahao, and Vanillin team, because the art of the Huahao War was that you should always be prepared for death but do everything to survive. Mi Dazi and her other allies came closer and saw that this place did not look like others in the rooms and looked like an observation zone. The real organizer of this championship appeared on the screen and expressed his most sincere admiration for the fact that all participants crossed the bodies of their comrades and finally reached the last level. He explained that the Tower of Glory was originally an alien teleport requiring a powerful awakened up to 25 years. So he secretly attracted scientists and disguised it as a championship. At the end of his story, the organizer said that the final would begin soon and will be broadcast live around the world. In turn, the main character was happy that he was finally able to get to the member of the organization K, and planned to get acquainted with him closer after the final. Now the competition was led by a beauty from Ulduan, who greeted everyone in the direct broadcast of the Youth Champion. According to the rules of the previous Youth Championship, the competition will be held simultaneously. In the battles format, one-on-one rivals will be selected by random winner will receive the right to enter alien ruins. In fairness, it is forbidden to carry personal props. The organizers provide a duel, and the entire team can pay for its purchase and not just its user. The girl also forgot to mention that the weapon is not bought for money, and the players will need to pay for it with their years of life. Participants did not expect to hear that the years of equipment would be a currency for the purchase of equipment. The teacher said that all the weapons were sold in just half a minute, and the main character could not understand where everyone was in such a hurry. The representative of Vanillin explained that if you fluctuate, you can suffer a defeat due to a simple absence of weapons. Xiao pierced and saw that on the last page there was still one box with weapons for which 5 years of life was asked. Shanut Sisho believed that it would be better than nothing, although he personally did not really need a weapon, but it would be possible to share with the whole team. The young man impatiently wanted to see what kind of treasure was hidden in the purchased box. The contents did not please the protagonist at all, because he could not believe that 5 years of his life were spent on some yo-yo. At the same moment, teleportation to the arena for a filed distribution in pairs immediately began. After a moment, Shanut Sisho arrived at the battlefield and did not expect him to meet with Midazi in the first round. The girl said that they, the girls Ryumi, were full of surprises and assured that our hero would now make sure of this. She instant and straightforwardly attacked her opponent, but he considered that it was too trivial, and the girl herself praised him for excellent endurance and physical strength. In the end, the protagonist still decided to use yo-yo, and, with the help of his purchase, was able to knock the sword with the hands of Mi Dazi. Shanut Sisho quickly decided to take advantage of this moment and hit his rival in a weak place in order to defeat only with a blow. He did not expect his hand to pass through the body, and the girl explained that it was thanks to the Chan's Sisyo that she became the strongest awakened water in Ryumi and can now transform freely. Midazi emphasized that all the fun is just beginning and turned her body into liquid, so now physical attacks do not act on it. Our hero could only defend himself without any attacks, so now he needs to find a way to stop the transformation of his rival. In the end, Midazi promised to give a victory to the young man if he agrees to practice with her and the female army after returning home. Shanut Sisho said that he did not like it when he was doing handouts, so he was going to win in an honest way. The girl got angry due to the fact that the main character refused her, so she used an explosive water wave. And at that moment, a new idea came to the guy. The young man quickly guessed the moment and grabbed his rival by the leg, although she did not understand what it was because, in any case, she knows how to turn into a liquid. After a few seconds, she saw that her leg was frozen, and the ice gradually rose up. Shanu Xixiao explained that he used his mind to destroy the structure of water molecules at the girl's legs and made them turn into ice. Then the protagonist decided to show the fiery king Hua Hao with the help of his weapons. At the same time, Mi Dazi panicked due to the fact that she could not get rid of frost on her legs, which is why she could not turn into a liquid. Then the guy tied his rival, which was upset due to the fact that she was now connected in such a humiliating way, although she knew how to handle icy threads. The main character did not stop there and used the zipper, but Midazi could not hold out for a long time and began to shout that she was surrendering. Meanwhile, in the Zone C, the representative of Vanillina suffered a crushing and shameful defeat. Shanu Xixiao just teleported to her opponent and now did not know how to resist such a strong equipment. It seems that the representative of Ulduan studied the abilities of our hero, and his equipment is aimed at neutralization, but at the same time it cost many years of his life. The opponent did not wait long and simply began to mercilessly shoot Shanu Kusho. Now the guy was sure that this golden Gatling was just a technological miracle, and the radiation of negative ions was present in his shells, which could paralyze the usual awakened. Our hero was lucky because his physical strength was much stronger than that of ordinary people, so he was easy to counterattack. After this blow, the opponent still remained unharmed, and now laughed with the fact that the legendary awakened with the triple system had such a weak force. In fact, it was just a trial blow to find the weaknesses of the representative of Ulduan. So now our hero was able to see that a tiny crack had formed on the glove. Then the opponent used a stream of flame, but Shanu Xixiao knew how to make a barrier of the mind for the mind due to the fact that he practiced Sinka too many times and copied its technique. Judging by the area of the gloves and the calculation of the current shock force, the equipment of the representative of Ulduan is not invulnerable. Therefore, the protagonist began to think through his plan. To begin with, the guy released electronic elements of lightning under his feet, and the more, the better to move around the fire. Small foci of the explosions began to occur around, which is why the opponent thought that Shanu Xixiao had placed mines throughout the arena. Now the guy's armor was destroyed, although he was sure that it was simply impossible. Our hero explained that thunder and lightning have a very strong penetrating ability, so he managed to simply blow up his equipment. The representative of Ulduan was very angry that the opponent disgraced him throughout the world, so he asked the organizer to acquire a hidden object. The presenter explained that he acquired most of the items and thus received the privilege once to acquire a hidden item right during the battle. The opponent said that this item is a little more expensive, but it does not matter to him because he set his honor in the first place, and now he paid 642 years of life of his comrades. Meanwhile, in Zone E Lin, Sinka fought with a large number of rivals from Ulduan and now could not understand why they all fell sharply. Now the system reported that only one person came out of Ulduan, and our hero was shocked by how cruel his opponent was. Meanwhile, a huge monster appeared in the arena, for which the guy paid the lives of his comrades. The main character was not at all afraid, because in fact he was an omnipotent awakened and used the absolute field of thinking to reduce the intellect of his opponent. The representative of Ulduan froze in place because he could not believe that Hua Hao really has an omnipotent awakened. He tried to beat his monster because he now did not think about the battle at all and stood here. The next second, our hero was already hugging with this animal, and his opponent defeatedly lay on the floor. In the end, Shanu Xixiao decided to use control by the power of the mind to direct the monster to his own owner. The young man was not going to adhere to combat ethics and decided to simply destroy his opponent with just one exact blow. Previously, the formidable representative of Ulduan was now lying on the floor and trembled in pain. Our hero emphasized that anyone who decides to offend Hua Hao would be destroyed, no matter how far he was. At this moment, they announced that Shanu Xixiao won, and since the team of Ulduan was destroyed, the Hu Hao team wins the youth championship. Mi Dazi carefully watched the battle and did not stop thinking that she should get the genes of our hero for her country. At this moment, a man came down to all participants under the name K, who greeted all players and spectators. He said that there were 265 victims at the championship, but this was all in order to extend the time of opening the portal, where there was a technique that would allow people to evolve up to the second stage. Shanu Xixiao was unhappy that the organizers forced students to go to the ruins for research, because of them, a large number of young people died. Kay did not stand on ceremony and said that in this case he would kill everyone in this tower, starting the countdown. Shanu Xiao understood that he could not allow such an outcome. so he asked the organizer to stop and talk. Then he went down and asked with interest that he wanted to discuss the subject, whom the organizer categorically did not want to lose. Our hero said that he could help and go to alien ruins to get a skill for the second stage of the evolution of mankind. But then to the Tower of the Tower should safely remove the surviving players. Then, a commander appeared on large screens who ordered the organizer to simply give up. She said that the military managed to destroy external barriers and surround the Tower of Fame, so K to immediately release all the players. The organizer began to quickly hide and emphasized that he still completely controls the main processes of the tower. So the military was definitely not in the position to negotiate with him. The commander Ryumi realized that he simply deceived them and he was not even in the tower, because he made sure that the enemies would definitely agree to his conditions. Meanwhile, all the girls bravely said that they would definitely go with Xiaoxiao to alien ruins. The main character asked not to do this because they still do not know what dangers are lurking in this place. So girls should stay in the tower and cooperate with the military in order to hack the program. Meanwhile, all the commanders began the battle for the winner of the tournament and began to offer various privileges to the winner, because now he could move between any countries. Shanut Sishio promised to think about this after he returned, and explained that the competition in the arena took him a lot of physical energy, which is why he simply wanted to relax. Girls from other countries were unhappy that the protagonist was so torn by different commanders, because both of them would not mind being with such a strong young man. Representatives of Ryumi and Vanillin at the same time thought that tonight they should get the chance Sishio for their country. Meanwhile, Lin Sinka and Si Yao asked to wait for them in a hostel because they planned to make a surprise for the winner. Our hero did not object and first went to a large bathroom to wash away his fatigue after the championship. There, foreign girls were waiting for him, who began their plan to conquer the champion for their countries. Midazi emphasized that in order to cure the physical fatigue of our hero, he definitely needs an assistant. The representative of Vanillin was not going to give the guy just like that, so she was not going to give even the chances of her opponent. At that moment, someone who interrupted this conflict between two girls went into the bathroom. It was Lin Sinka, who was dissatisfied with the fact that some girls allowed herself to break into the bathroom to her fiancé, Zhang Zhuxue and Zhang Ruya, who were also not going to allow some girls to seize power over the main character, came behind them. The whole team burst into the bathroom because they were going to do everything so that no one to give a chance Sishio. Foreigners in line emphasized that Hua Hao does not have the right to monopolize such a valuable human resource. Shanut Sishio almost could not walk after such a vacation, but now he was able to master the technique of telepathy. In the early morning of the next day, the whole team gathered in order to take our hero to alien ruins. They climbed to the top of the Tower of Glory and saw a strange portal. So Lin Sinka asked Shanutisha to look more carefully, and he felt a barrier requiring great power to enter alien ruins. In this case, the representative of Vanillin decided to use her weapons to destroy this barrier. But all her attempts were useless. Zhang Zhuxue and Zhang Ruya heard that our hero opened a new combined skill, so they wanted to try to help him as a weapon. The three of them held hands and felt that the merger was so great that they were about to become one. Now the main character found his wings that could definitely help him break through the barriers to fly into alien ruins. The speed of these mechanical wings was very high, and, combined with the power of the mind of our hero, he could break through the barrier and smoothly enter the ruins. As a result, Shanut Sishio was still able to successfully enter alien ruins. After that, Zhang Zhuxu and Zhang Ruya were divided with a guy and now flew to the ground at all speed. During his journey, the main character promised himself to return in order to save everyone, after he gets a skill for the second stage of evolution.